my side.
Okay, did it work
Yeah,
on
it
your
did.
end? Okay, great. As I'm going to YouTube, I disappear for a little bit there, but I'll come back. I have a lot of positive feedback from
Good.
yeah, and they said that they really enjoyed the information because it's legit. You know what I'm saying? Like
They
we
can
were.
feel it, right? They can feel
Mhm.
I'm
Yeah,
not trying to bullshit anybody.
yeah.
Um, good.
And
Any
another thing, real quick, I'm just gonna warn you, which you probably already know. Why is it this not working? Is that when I'm on other people's stuff, like their shows or whatever, like yesterday I was looking at the comments and they're like, "Oh, that lady in whatever I'm wearing is crazy," or I get a lot of comments like that, so don't ever be discouraged. A lot of people will like combat against the comments.
Oh, like
But
trolls. Oh
yeah, the
yeah,
trolls.
I know about trolls.
Okay, good.
Oh
So
yeah, I know very well. And there's a way to know who is a troll that's paid and who is just
yeah,
an asshole. Like there's a way to figure it
exactly.
out. And there's a way to mitigate it too. But oh yeah, there's trolls. I expect it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
glad you know. So I have, let's see, let me go sit down. Like I said, I was having some problems with the internet. They still have to come back for the third time. So I'm on my phone, guys. I'm on Codebreaker Real Talk, and I'm with Ariel Starbird. In my head, I always hear starburst, like you're a starburst of energy, like good
Bursting
energy,
stars. That's what people,
the
yeah, it's
bursting
like
of stars.
I know
And
you're
sorry. And today we're gonna let her talk. You talk, Ariel, about the different schemes, the different types of targeting within the family, community, church, whatever you want to call it, even in your own, marriage. Since birth, how we're targeted, or specifically what you want to talk about, so that way they don't want us to remember and they keep us down. They don't want us to even remember that we're here for a mission and they keep us down in certain ways or busy, distracted. So here's Ariel. Thanks guys for listening.
Thank you so much for having me on, by the way. I really enjoyed doing the last one. I'm glad people got a lot out of it. I got a lot out of talking about it. And I could tell by some of the comments that people were resonating. They could see like first of all, I really appreciate that people are like, oh, this is something different. This is not a cookie cutter because it's my story. That's all I can do is tell my story. So I was hoping today, like you asked me the last time, well, how do they, once you've been through all that, like even if you recover, but you're still targeted, and you were asking me, well, what are some ways they target you? And then earlier, right now, you said they target you from birth. So yeah, I mean, in reality, targeting starts, from my understanding, targeting starts before you even incarnate. They already know who is incarnating, and they target you before. So that's why some people don't get a chance to incarnate, because they're blocked so much, either with abortion or with miscarriage or with other poisoning, where they can't find a viable body. So even like if you're here, it's amazing. Then if you can survive being vaccinated, abducted, tortured, horrible food, medicated, if you can survive all of that, like you're a veteran already. So, but the targeting never actually stops, it just changes. And I think they've gotten smarter about it. Whereas they realize that some souls, they just can't block them. They find a way through. So if you're mission minded, like I'm just wired like that. I think you are as well, very mission minded. Like I come last, mission comes first. And I was even more like that in the past. I got a little better about self-care. Um, so they know what they do instead is they try to derail your mission. They try to co-opt it. They try to reprogram you. And they call that rehab, right? They call it rehab, but really it's reprogramming you into what they want. Because they all and I think Corey Good actually mentioned it too in one of his shows, whereas in the past it was all about against the grain. Now it's with the grain. They know they're going to have people like us coming in. They're going to go fighting against the grain. That's so much energy, takes so much energy. They realize it's not really worth it in the end. Let's go with the grain, offer them more money, better deals, bribes, whatever your weaknesses are. They're going to bribe you with that and get you to repurpose your mission for their bullshit. Right? So, and some people fall for it and some people don't. But in America, it's so easy to fall for it because there's so many shiny objects, so many distractions. When I was growing up, there weren't as many. We like when I was growing up, I didn't even have TV for a part of my childhood, and then we had black and white TV. Now there's devices everywhere, nice, like beautiful colors, 3D, like, CGI, and now AI is another distraction. And the fact that there's so much money here, at least in the past, in the 80s, there was an enormous amount of money. You could, do all these things to your body, whatever you want. But it's all a distraction. It's shallow. Um, Now I think in Russia they have things like that too. But when I was growing up, we didn't have anything. Like I spent time in nature. We went to the river. We would go fishing. Like that's the kind of stuff we did. And but they did something else. So I recall like one of the ways at least I remember how they got me mentally, because they can torture you, but they can't convert you. They got to convert you with something. And it was about nationalism. So I remember meetings under the school, and I remember extraterrestrials. So they would get all these kids to go under in the basement of the school, and they would show us on screens like, let's go fight the bad aliens. Humans are being harmed, Russians are being harmed in space, we got to go fight them. And it was about, we got to go protect Russians in space, be the hero, stand up for your nation. It was so when if you're like warrior minded, that can appeal to you. They get different people in different ways. Bribery didn't work. I don't care about that, but that worked on me.
What grade were you in? Because when I was in fourth grade, they we did a whole thing of NASA, and they said we're in the USA force, and we have to go help the USA. You know, we're the soldiers, and they had us do a world like out of paper mache, and we put a world Earth together, different planets, and then we had like different stations and they dressed us in black and white, and of course, a little tie, a long tie for even for girls. Girls wore skirts, black skirts, white button-down shirts, and we had to do a whole show on Star Wars, and our families came. And I remember there was two men in black that showed up, and I'm like, what about what? Back then, I didn't know. I was like really happy, and then they invited me and another boy to go watch the Raiders of the Lost Ark in fourth grade when it first came in, just because I had memorized all my stars and states and capitals. I find that very interesting. Do you remember like what grade you were in when that happened? Thank
If
you.
I recall correctly, I was in first grade, but it continued after that because then the training, once they had you, then the training started. Different types of training also under the school. Unfortunately, some of it involved graping and to disassociate you, to get you to now siphon your energy into these other timelines. But initially, it was the co-option of your mind into ideology. But it's like I see it so much of that now too. So we're talking about targeting. Well, like they target you with that too, where imagery and messaging in music and movies and even things that you might think is like innocent for kids. I don't know, I just thought of the Avenger. It's like you get to be a superhero, you get to fight bad aliens or whatever it is that you think is bad. For the maybe kids who are more Aryan, they're told them, oh, there's bad Jews, let's go fight the bad Jews. The Jews are told there's bad Aryans, and they just pit people against each other, before they can even like cognize what that even means. They already, brainwash you into these are the bad people, we're the good guys, we got to go defeat the bad guys, and then you're not thinking anymore. And I'm like one I mentioned last time, one of my clients who is a cancer survivor, we were both as I was helping him to heal the cancer, which he did. He's actually alive. I've known him now for 10 years. He's still alive. It's incredible. Naturally, all natural. So as we were working together, he was having SSP recall and I was having SSP recall, and we're talking about it, and we're doing RVs, remote viewing on different things. And he was telling me how he had to um I think this is actually a session I did with him. I helped him to go into like a very relaxed state and just remember what's there. And all this stuff was coming up, how he had to go fight these like giant insect, high, super high IQ, like 300, 1,000 IQ, like super high IQ insectoids. And he was initially fighting with them. And then somehow he overheard one of them saying, "Hey, they seem intelligent. They don't seem like they're like stupid creatures like we were told." And so he made friends with that one that was saying that maybe these humans are intelligent, and they were talking. And my client was saying that he was realizing they were brainwashed too. They were told we're just a bunch of stupid retards, evil retards. Just go kill them, take their property, take their land, take their planet, what like whatever, what were supplies, whatever. And instead, he made friends with this giant insectoid creature. Basically, they decided that it wasn't worth it to kill each other since they're both intelligent. Like that, so that I don't think a person who's busy recovering from cancer would waste his time on bullshit. So when he tells me that's his memory and that corroborates with other memories I've had, where I recall also having to interface with all kinds of ETs, um, I would say that that's also not bribable. He's also not interested in money. Like I told him, you got to publish a book. He is not even interested in money. I'm like, but what about like teaching others? Yeah, he wants to teach others, but he doesn't, he can't quite get organized to publish anything. I wish he
It's
would.
really difficult. Yeah, it's really
Yeah.
difficult. It took me a long time to get mine, and even still, they're like, we want more, Veronica. Why can't you just elaborate? I'm like, do you guys know how hard it is just for me to even write? So yeah,
Yeah.
it would be great if he would. As far as the mantids, I do have recall of and seeing there was one praying mantis, and he had a head of a man. He had glasses and he had a see-through, helmet. And we were at a ball. It was a ball, and I said hi, and he says hi, and then telepathically he shows me his little baby boy. And
Oh,
it's a
wow.
praying mantis with the same. It's a boy head with big glasses and then a see-through helmet. I thought that was very interesting. That's like one of the flashbacks that I have. And then I have taken pictures of the egg-shaped um, ships that they're in here on Tucson in Santa Cruz. It's over there on the south side on Santa Cruz. On if you guys are familiar, um, it would be Santa Cruz between um, Irvington and Valencia, going southwest, I mean northwest. So I had those for a long time, and I have had many dreams of being taken. They don't want me to talk in their ships because they were it was actually one of the times when it was James Rink, because James Rink was in my dream. Most of the time he was my enemy. Sometimes we were both Hulks together, but on that particular time he had set up a claymore inside a hotel where we were in. We had presented something, me and my friends, and he had locked me in with the females, and I was in a black and white suit, and I was taking care of large quantities of our files. And he had another lady with him. So somehow I was able to use my X-ray vision to dismantle the claymore, and then we all escaped. It was all my female friends. We escaped out to the top of the roof. It was a skyscraper, and then there was a egg-shaped white ship, and it had one little tiny window, and then they dropped the ladder, and it was one of those those ladders that they drop from helicopters. Well, this was from the praying mantis ship, and then I wake up. But I do have recall with the praying mantis, and like I said, ever since I was a child, I would touch them and just be telepathic with them. Do you have something like that with insectoids?
So from serving in the SSP, yeah, I had to interface with all kinds of extraterrestrials. When I do my shamanic work now, in my calling, I mostly work with Archangel Michael. I work with other archangels, angels. They seem to be doing most of the heavy lifting. On occasion, I'll see mantoids, I don't really work with them though, but I encounter them. Usually they're like with other clients. I used to see a lot of Draco, a lot of reptilian, a lot of grays. Um, I've also seen a lot of the positive Lyrans working with people or being in their lineage. But I feel like mostly just because of the nature of my work, I tend to go with what works, what's going to give my clients results. And Archangel, especially Archangel Michael, for me, he's a heavy hitter. Some people are like, well, I can't get any result. I'm like, maybe you're not doing it right. I mean, I don't want to judge what you're doing, but for me, I get results. My client, when I'm doing spiritual clearing, I get results. I get clearing whatever person,
Mhm.
house, land, property, anything. Um, and so Archangel Michael is the main one. Archangel Uriel also, Raphael, Gabriel, those are the main ones. Power animals also. It's part of my training, so that's what I do. But in my dreams, I see interesting things too, as well. I feel like those may be flashbacks, though. Some of my dreams are also flashbacks, and some are current events. So, um, but I can interface with anybody. Like,
Mhm.
you know, I I would have been probably, and I probably was used this way as a good remote viewer. Like someone could just give me coordinates. They just give me a number. I don't need any more information than that. And I can tell them all kinds of data just from a little bit of
Yeah.
information.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Same here. And then I will also have flashbacks of numbers as I'm waking up or going into sleep, or just during the day, a number will pop in and I have to write it down, and it'll be coordinates. And it's this all day long. I think that's why I'm very happy to be celibate, because I could barely deal with all this information on my own, and I've learned to trust myself. And I think yesterday we were in that writing class that I had invited you with Stone Hobbit, and then we all figured out that it was us. She said we were waiting for us to show up, because you know
Oh,
how there's a saying that says when the student is ready, the teacher appears, right? And then she says, and I get goosebumps everywhere still right now. And she reminded us, we were waiting for us to show up. You were waiting for you to show up, Ariel. I was waiting for B to show up. And here we are, sharing our story. And it's just beautiful because
yeah,
all
the higher
along,
version of ourselves, the
yeah,
empowered version of ourselves, doing empowered things, not running around scared of whatever, the
yeah.
cults or the Draco or X's or whatever, and
Hmm.
not letting them shut us up, right? Still continuing to talk. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, and that's why things like this really are therapeutic. Like this is more like for me, I've always, I don't know how you feel, but I always felt like talk therapy didn't do much for me. I much prefer working out. I
Yeah.
literally, like when I'm running or doing physical training, I literally see problem solving in my mind. So
Yes.
shamanic
Hmm.
healing works and physical fitness. So
Hmm.
but doing things like this is also kind of a therapy, but I feel like it's for everybody, you know?
Hmm. Yes, because we have longed to tell people our story, but you can't just, like we talked the last time, you can't really just tell anybody, because they'll try and shut you down, and they're also the handlers. Going back to Archangel Michael, there are two. One of them's the evil one. He even was raping me in one of my memories. So, but the good one, Archangel Michael, Raphael, Chamuel is also one of mine. But Archangel Michael has helped me a lot when I do the clearing and the hex removals, when I go into people's homes and things like that. I was doing a clearing on one of my family members, very, very necessary. And she told me it was a blue orb, like a teal orb. I said, yeah, I asked him to help. I said, so it's very interesting. One of my friends, she just gifted me, Teresa, she just gifted me a pendant that had all the angels. And I'm like, oh my gosh, thank you. Like, it means a lot, you know? And but anyway, going to the handler situation, yes, even before we're born, you're right. They do try and block us, but we still get through. They tried blocking my mom, telling her she couldn't have kids. So then she started getting all these different shots in order for me to be born. And she even prayed to God. She said, "Look, Jesus, I will name her Jesus, even if it's a girl or a boy when she comes in, if I can just have her." Or him, and I appeared, and my first name is Jesus. My grandmother named me Veronica, so it's all biblical. I find it interesting. And like I always say, they prick us in our little feet to see, oh yeah, that's her blood type. Oh, Ariel's here, Veronica's here, Steve's here, Norma's here. she made it, and then they track us. They track us through our our sign. Like for example, I'm Pisces, but I have all of my other houses and squares or whatever you want to call them. They're fire signs. So I'm not just water piranha, beautiful mermaid fish thing. No, I'm like fire. So what was I gonna say? Mm, was your other than your uncle was on part one, was your uncle also your mom's handler? And then how did you meet your ex and what happened and things like that?
Oh my gosh, there's so many things. So no, he was not the only handler. I recall also being trafficked to they looked like decorated military personnel. High, like some, and I don't know who they are because I'm not there. They're not famous. Apparently, Russia had a way of just taking cities off the map. They would have entire cities that would not be on the map. They were secret military zones that no one was allowed on ever. And I think they have that here in the United States too, but like there, it's not supposed to happen, right? But over there, it was official policy. And so you could easily be trafficked in there and there was no like the law doesn't apply there. They do whatever. So I recall multiple times being trafficked to these high level military generals, or higher. And so if they are in the NKVD, they would be like the top level. And so those were probably my uncle's handlers. He brought me home to his handlers, and that was part of the training. So people need to understand that that grape is not just for their personal satisfaction. They're also under orders. That's part of the training to get you to disassociate a very specific way to then serve in a specific way for them, for their projects. And so that's why only specific people get to grape certain people. It's also like, yeah, they're using astrology for that year. They're using personality types. They're matching people up, the right abuser with the right victim, psychologically to create a certain type of schism and a break. And some of the memories I first when I was first recalling them, they just seemed strange. I didn't understand them. Like for example, um, some were obvious, like they had me watch some kind of weird porn. Like now, lots of people say that, right? But at that time, like, why are they having a child? But that was one of the first memories. But now it makes sense. And another one is they had me do seances because I'm psychic. And I recall all these people in the room, adults, and I'm like, what? Like when I first remember, like, why are adults listening to a child? But I remember a commanding voice speaking through me, giving them all kind of information about their future, but it was all bad. It was all bad for them, and they were all really like angry and sad and scared and disappointed because their future was not bright, and they just found out. And I remember going, I like they didn't kill me for that. Like no, because I guess they knew it was true. Some of the things that I said.
And they can use us for changing the timelines.
Right. Oh, right. Then they
Mhm.
probably went to the drawing board to change those timelines so that they can evade it. That's
Mhm.
why we're living in such a shitty situation now because of all the tweaking and messing, probably with CERN. So
Mhm.
there was a lot
Even
going on over there.
even something real quick, even I just got this thought, like even like what's going on with Tinder, Bumble, all those dating apps, the AI is in charge of kind of like making sure that these people grape each other, like, to
Yeah.
get into their psyche and control them and become their handlers. And also I see them the people that were trying to hide or whatever, going off the grid, you cannot hide. Okay. When this whole pandemic thing happened, oh, I'm going to go to higher ground, and they still track you. So what I see a lot right now, especially with the young kids, is they're seeking for something. Okay. They don't know that they're seeking for their self, their higher power, like you said, their mission. So they're being sent bombarding these, women with, you know, plastic surgery, whatever. Like the whole sex thing, the whole they like orgies. They call it sauce. Okay. They have different names. They call it for a young girl, it's a chicken. They have their different um signs and
Code words.
code words, exactly. And I see a lot. I pray. I send. I mean, I'm not religious, but I'm always talking to certain people that I see or whatever, and I'm like, you guys, you have to get out of that situation. They're gonna keep sending you the women, the men, to keep you on that high of the orgasm, because these Draco, these other beings, not just the Draco, Aldebaran, they are they are they want to siphon that energy through the different matrices through Antarctica. Remember, because all roads lead to Antarctica. And this is for higher learning people. This is not for elementary. I'm not here to teach elementary. Sorry. You got to do your own research. What I'm talking about is everything leads to Antarctica, right? So they're siphoning in the energy up here, and they want to keep the people perpetuate on having sex, on seeking for the orgasm, because that is when they can go and travel, right? And then these entities attach to the aura or attach to the energy, and it's just I see it. I don't know. Do you see it?
Yes, but it's like a demonic kind of
Yeah.
orgasm. More on that
Demonic.
later. You know, it's a really interesting topic, like what's the right, what's the wrong way? And there's definitely a right and a wrong way to do it. I'll get to it in a moment. I want to answer your question. My mother's handler, I had to think about it. Yes, she did have one, but from what I observed, it was from her job because she was really busy getting her PhD. And it was the guy who was who her manager or whatever it's called, who helps you to get it. He was constantly throwing blocks, like for years, not letting her finish her dissertation and just creating constant mental stress, constant anxiety. So even if you're driven and you've avoided all the bullshit and you're really trying to do the right thing, they'll get you in some way anyway, with the stress, the anxiety, the constant problems that do not have a solution. You'll just be running around, trying to constantly fulfill some requirement or some order, whether it's your boss or your in your degree, or it's your husband or somebody who is there, who is now creating problems for you that you actually are not real. You don't need to be solving them, and it keeps you perpetually just stuck, kind of like going a downward spiral. You know what I mean? And like she did this for like it doesn't even take 3 years, like for 3 years, just struggling, trying to get her PhD. And eventually she asked someone else to step in, and he told her, "You're not supposed to be doing any of this stuff." And in like 2 months, she was done. She didn't need, like,
Wow.
so clearly she was being messed with, but she didn't
Wow.
know. She just didn't know.
Yeah. Now with my grandmother, with my father's grandmother, they kept her. We were talking about pedophilia the last time. My um grandfather married my grandmother when she was 15,
Mm,
and she had 12 kids, and that's how they kept her. She
busy,
was
yes.
so beautiful. She's from Basque.
Mhm.
She's beautiful. My grandma was beautiful. And my grandfather too. And what happened is he was a drunk, and he swore allegiance to her. He never cheated on her. He just wanted her to keep having kids. And I feel bad for her because she even ended up in a psych ward, because at her last child, every time she would have a child, she would have postpartum depression. And then one of my grandfather's sisters, both of them, they decided to put her in a psych ward, and they stole one of my uncles. And I finally got to meet him last year, and he couldn't believe the love that we had for him. So I know he was used also for the secret
Yeah.
service program, but he doesn't want to acknowledge it. Like, I sent him my
Mhm.
books and everything. He's like, no, I'm not interested. And I'm like, you were used. I can see it, because there's certain things that he does for a
Mhm.
living that I'm not gonna say right now. And then my other uncle, Claudio, he was for NASA. He worked for NASA. He was a gemologist. And then they had him somehow, with his handler, his wife, they had her separate him from our family. Like,
Mhm.
he doesn't want anything to do with it. So, there's different ways. How did
There's many ways. That's it.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
the thing. That's why it's almost like we're talking about targeting, and we want to be educated about it, but I just want to say you can't be prepared enough, because no matter how prepared you think you are, they're going to still figure out your weaknesses or your blind spots and target you there. So you got to be vigilant, not like stressed out, but you want to be calm, but you want to be vigilant, and you always want to be paying attention, awake and aware, in control of your wheel at all times. And I think ultimately later on when things improve a little bit, I think it can be avoided. They don't have to get you all the time. But like how many times they got us, right? And we're not unintelligent people, but it's like we have to live too. So we're busy trying to survive. When you're busy trying to survive and everything's hard, you can't be perfect at everything. And sometimes we make mistakes. So I try to learn from those. But what happened in Russia, see, the mistake that my family made, like a lot of innocent people who are not criminally minded, was that they just thought it was that one person, that one neighborhood, that one small group of people, and now we're out. We won. We survived. We didn't succumb to their evil. We didn't become like them. Yeah, we lost everything, but we're okay. And America is like it's so much better. And so they really thought that they were done. They didn't have to fight anymore. But they did, because they didn't understand that he was just a cog in a big wheel, just like Epstein, just like a lot of just like the people who controlled your family or handled, different people. They're working for somebody and answering to somebody, and they're getting paid to do the job. And their survival depends on them being able to do their job, or they're going to get fired or worse, or eliminated, erased. Right? So it comes down to either they survive or you survive. And it's always going to be them, not you. They're gonna so this is the Aramonic. This is the demonic, the self-service, right? Where it's always about them. Everything becomes about them because they got to survive. Because otherwise bad things will happen to them and they know it. So, and it's an international organization. So my parents were just busy, right? They were busy doing whatever they were doing. So they stopped paying attention. They figured, what is he going to do from over there? Nothing. So they really at that point relaxed too much. So that's mistake number one. You got to keep paying attention, because the signs, if you learned from the patterns and the signs, they would have seen them again. So, and I was too young to remember everything. And like it took me a long time to dissect everything again and again and again and have lots of conversations with my mom, what she remembered. And that's when I got the corroboration where she confirmed, yes, he was involved with KGB and MVD. Yeah, he had a drug lab and produced his own drugs. Yes, all these things that corroborated with my part, right? But she just didn't know he was doing the satanic stuff. She knew he was doing all the criminal stuff, and she observed his lifestyle, the drug orgies in his apartment. But like even if she saw Satanism, she wouldn't recognize it, because she does, like, her spiritual sight is shut down, unfortunately. She's intuitive, but she doesn't, she's an atheist, unfortunately. It's what it is. Both of my parents were, because they're very educated. That's another weakness. When you're very educated, you got your PhD, now you're so smart, all the
Yeah,
spiritual stuff, that's primitive. Where they
yeah.
don't believe that.
My mom's dad was atheist, the one that I told you the last time that he wouldn't talk,
Mm,
because his mother was German and an Ashkenazi Jew. He was an atheist and he would never go to church, even if somebody died. Nope. So
mhm.
I find it very interesting because I did get to a point where I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna be an atheist. But then, and this is, I had so much information and I'm like, and now I'm not religious, but I do believe in one God, but I don't believe, see, the thing of it is we can talk about religion next time, but you got to be careful because we did talk about that one God but it's not the real God. It's the Aleister Crowley one about the whole octopus thing, the eighth
Well,
spirit
atheists
under
don't
the
believe
sun.
in any of that, good or bad. To them, it's
Yeah,
all just primitive, what do you call it, superstitions. They believe they're just
yeah,
superstitions. And we're so beyond that. We're so
yeah.
smart.
Yeah.
Like, unfortunately, here and there, it's the same. When people get those high level degrees, it entrains them into a kind of intellectual
Hmm.
arrogance where
Hmm.
it's, even if it's in front of them, they just don't see it, you
Yep.
know.
And unfortunately I did get to that point where I was like, I'm atheist, forget about it. And then this past time I did more spiritual work, after the like after the cancer. not during, because during the cancer, I'm like, I'm atheist. Like, I don't want to believe in anything anymore. And then after a while, I started going back to the love that I felt for, you know, me, it's Joshua, Benjamin, and Mary Magdalene. I'm part of their bloodline. I'm part of the Jinn bloodline. Um, but I still don't believe that Joshua you know, got taken out according to Ashiana Dean. Because see what they want to do, and we can talk about this in another show, but real quick, what they want to do is constantly sacrifice you and constantly say, this is what the ending is. And I don't believe that. I just can't.
That
I
I
just,
agree with you 1,000%. Yes, they created a sacrifice-based religion to constantly imprint people so that every time they go to church, they're looking at sacrifice and to make you believe that you need to be sacrificed. And in a way, that's why they're getting away with so much sacrifice because it's in people's unconscious to allow it.
Mhm. Right.
It's like
And
NLP.
and right. And then the God that if I am gonna, believe in something, I don't believe in the God that said, "Hey, you need to sacrifice your child to what was it? Aaron was being one of the Old Testament
Yes.
um where he says, I think it's Isaac or something, one of those, you need to sacrifice your son to show your loyalty to me. And I'm like, bull fucking shit.
Yeah.
This is I don't serve that God. That is like the Draco, the whole,
That's it.
sacrifice crap. So anyway, we'll talk about that in another.
Yeah,
But
that's
go,
a
I
very
wanna,
interesting topic for
yeah,
another
I
time
wanna I
because
wanna
it's a
learn
big
more
can of
about.
worms.
Yeah, sorry. You're
No,
you're what? Okay, my thing is, I see this, and I could be wrong, but I see that your uncle, grandfather, whatever in Russia sent someone to handle you here through the lines, through the communication line.
you're onto something because
He sent someone to
the
you.
the uncle's name is Mikhail, Misha, Mikhail. My
Ah,
ex's name
Mikhail.
is Michael. They have the same name. So I think you're onto something here.
Oh man.
And they're not aligned with Archangel Michael. That's the counterfeit. Always the counter. So that how do they target you with the counterfeit? So to say a little bit more about my ex, right? So we're in the United States. I'm busy. I got my degree, my bachelor's from Parsons, and after that point, I was getting my education as a healing artist. I was really busy with that, getting all kinds of training. That's all I was into. I wasn't really into anything else at that time. I was just into learning how to be a really good shamanic healer, energy healer, because I knew that was my path. And a person contacted me asking for some healing. It was my ex. I didn't know him at the time, obviously, and very quickly became friends because I saw that he's so psychic. Like he's extremely psychic, extremely gifted, very talented person. So we became friends. Um, then at some point, my guides told me if he moves to New York, he's going to double the money. He's going to make double the money he makes over there. He was in North Carolina at the time. He moved to New York, made double the money, exactly like my guide said. So at that time, he was working in a company that does in something like in vitro medical company that does surrogate births that have to do with designer babies.
Okay,
Being,
all right. You're getting to something which I sent you this message last night. I wanted to talk about the synthetic organs because I'm watching the series Scarpetta with Nicole Kidman. Okay, and they're right now she's in a situation where there's this pod that was sent from outer space with synthetic organs, and somehow I'm bombarded, like it broke down, and somebody like was shooting at them, and I don't know if they're Russian. I think she said that they were from Russia, but there's another situation where somebody was off because this female here in the United States was feeding. Oh yeah, they were Russians, the ones in the ship that just okay. So she was feeding information to the Russians about the synthetic organs that they had in the United States. And because they wanted designer, like you said, you used the word designer, they used synthetic beings.
mm,
So they're, go ahead, you take the floor. Take the
yeah,
floor.
yeah. Well, synthetic beings, yes, you can have synthetic, completely, basically 3D printed people. I mean, people don't want to believe that, but That's like in the Epstein files, that's already there. They even call them, I think, something like synthetic beings. But they were also creating designer babies, which means that they were using CRISPR or other technology. Like that is an organic baby. It came from a mother, but they modified the genes. And that's different from totally synthetic because this did come from a natural birth or from a mother. So,
But you and I were my lab. You're wait,
oh
are
yeah.
you? Because I'm a
Yeah.
C-section, and I know you were my lab too.
I
I
was my
know it.
lab,
I
but
see you.
I was my lab. I was definitely since childhood, but my mother did have a natural birth. My son is a
Okay.
C.
Okay. Now you know that they can grow a baby 4 months in. I mean, yeah, 4 months in and still inject the baby in there.
Yeah.
If you see, there's a movie called Dead Ringers. They tell you everything in movies. So real quick, and then I'll let you have the floor again. Sorry, I interrupt you because I get really excited. The synthetic thing, what the main thing was is that people that had lost their loved ones, they wanted to bring them back so they can have
Such a
them.
bad idea. Oh
Very
God.
bad idea. AI sucks.
Yeah, that's called, yeah, in African shamanism they call voodoo. That's voodoo when you bring people back from the dead. So they're literally practicing a sorcery, a type of ancient sorcery, but now it's supposed to be progress. And yeah, our society's backwards. But coming back to my ex, yeah, he was working in that company. At that time, we didn't have all the information about that we do now. So at that time, I'm like, well, it's a good job. I mean, he's making double the money and he's doing what he knows how to do. He's working in his profession. So I didn't think too much of it other than just like as a separate side note, I thought that's probably not very ethical what they're doing. Like that, like I wouldn't want that. Like that's, I wouldn't want to be a surrogate mom to and then lose my child, or I wouldn't want to give up my eggs for a like for any amount of money. He was explaining to me how like some women sell their eggs for a lot of money. And in some of these third world countries where they don't have a lot of money and a lot of jobs, it's very risky to do anything over there for women. They can either be surrogate moms or they can sell their eggs and survive for quite a few years on that money, and so he portrayed it like it was a almost like a humanitarian thing for those women. They were saving those women from a bad fate, and helping science. So he was working there for a while. Now, looking back now, I can see how it's very likely his handlers put him in that job so he would have access to employees, to resources, to projects, to then somehow manipulate what kind of child he and I would produce. And because when we did have a child in 2010, he was still working in that company. Yeah, so I suspect we were messed with, but more on that later because that's subtle, right? I want to paint the big picture, right, first. So, um, also at that time, there was that person. I'm going to call her the French connection because she's from France. She's a French woman. Oh, she's just a friend. But he had all these women in his phone. Like I remember one time walking by and he was scrolling through his contacts. It was all women. Like, what? Like, are you womanizing? Why do you have I don't have a bunch of men in my contact book. Like endless women. What is this? Like, and I wonder if those are the women he was trying to target or using for some purpose or scoping out for his projects or whatever. But one of his friends was this French woman, and I suspect that she may have been part of something with either DNA or something was taken from her too. I suspect because she was involved already with him at that time. She was always in the background. They always seemed to be friends, but people saw them together in the same room when they were due to some event. And later on, out of the blue, he tells me she's the godmother of the child. I'm like, what's a godmother?
Okay,
What the
so
hell are
she
you
was,
talking about?
you're very aware that the Soviet Union and of course the United States, they love the twinning program through Hitler. Okay, so they were trying to twin your kid. That's what I see.
Very interesting.
So
And
you
like,
can have one and she can have one.
well, I guess with her didn't work. She did not have a child, but I suspect
Ooh.
that they took that. things didn't go maybe exactly how they wanted. I suspect that things did not ultimately go how they wanted because even though I believed some things, I'm not 100% gullible and I'm onto some things. And also my guides were there and they were blocking harm. They can't prevent me from making choices, but they can block like serious harm, right? So, yeah. So, but I suspect she was involved in some way in at least an energy in somehow manipulating how this child would be born or what would happen with this child because out of the blue he told me she's the godmother. I'm like, no one ever told me. You can't make somebody a godmother of a child and the mother doesn't know. You're telling me now, what does that mean, godmother? Well, she was there at his birth. Like, I don't give a shit. I don't know who this person is. Why are you bringing her into the picture? Calling her godmother, and I'm trash over here. I shouldn't get any custody, and she's the godmother. What is going on here? Like, yeah, at some point in court, he was saying I shouldn't get any custody because I talk about aliens. It's unbelievable. Like, no, I shouldn't have any parental rights at all because I talk about aliens and I heal my own cancer like naturally. Like, I'll get to it. It's like unbelievable. So, um, yeah, so this is still in New York. So because he portrayed himself as an expert in everything, expert in marketing, expert in medicine, expert in health, expert in finance, expert in law. I mean, you name it, he was the expert in it. And at that time, I probably thought he's probably exaggerating, but okay, maybe he's an expert in some things. It turned out to be not to be an expert in anything at all. It was all bullshit. But at that time, I thought, okay, maybe something. So he was saying, okay, let me audit your business. Let me see how you do what you do so that I can make it better for you. I'll help you how to improve. I'll help you improve it. So I showed him some of the stuff that I did, and and as he was going out networking with people, he was saying, I'm networking for you to help you grow your business. So what then later happened after I had the child, and I did have some postpartum depression. It kind of passed. I healed it naturally. But because the birthing process was so difficult, like for 5 days I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep, I couldn't drink, I couldn't hold anything down. I was just passing out. So by the time I got to the hospital for the emergency C-section, I didn't even know what drugs they used. And I think whatever drugs they used really messed me up because I remember for 2 years, it took me a real long time to recover. And for 2 years, I see pictures of myself now. I look like I got hit by a truck. Like I really was not okay. So I basically due to his incredible advice and how he treated me, I had to close my business. I was burnt out. I was feeling horrible. Um, I basically was, I could, like, I can't live in New York. The mistake that I made is I unfortunately moved in with him. Because when my son was 2 months old, he actually left. Yeah, he actually left. And it was me and my mother raising the child for a while. But then burnout and things like just a lot of also at that time. So I was dealing with kind of like I think all the stress and all the stuff. I started to develop cancer, but I caught it early. So I was also healing from my own cancer, healing it myself naturally. So like for people, I know you probably more went the conventional way, but I went completely holistic way. So I didn't use any chemo or any surgery. I created my own protocols. I went to holistic doctors, paid a lot of money, and other holistic practitioners, and essentially with their help designed my own protocols and healed myself. But it took a few years. Like it's not a like you take a pill and it's done. It's a process. It's a bunch of protocols. It's like a full-time job to
That's what
heal.
I wanted to do. I wanted to do the whole vitamin C drip. I didn't take any radiation or chemo. I said no. But it was very expensive. A lot of people said, you need to do this red light therapy. You need to do this in your IV, that, take your blood out and then put this in and the vitamin C. And but I'm like, okay, well then send me the money because I don't have it, and I did do a lot of natural things, but ultimately, I said, fuck it, take it all out. But I'm not gonna do the radiation or chemo, and I suffered a lot. But I did it, and we're here talking now. How did you? Do you want to do another show on that to specifically how you
I
how you
can.
healed it? Yeah, let's
Yeah,
do like part for, because
And it
it really
really
will be
would be
something
a
else.
part
Yeah.
of, yeah, it really would be a show in itself because the protocols are quite complicated.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't want people to, if they ever want to follow it, I don't want them to make a mistake, God forbid. It's
Right.
a lot. It was a lot of work. And yes, it's very expensive. But thankfully, because I did so much training and so much work, I developed a business up until that point. I was making my own money. I didn't have to have
Hmm.
jobs. I made my own money because I saw a lot of
Hmm.
clients and I was doing good work and I had a lot of repeat clients. And that's
Hmm.
another thing regarding targeting. Why do they want to target you? If you have a spiritual business, they want to
Hmm.
target you because they
I
don't
know.
want independent people. They want
Hmm.
people part of the system. I was not part of the system. I figured out
Hmm.
how to be successful on my own and independent. Oh, they
Hmm.
hate that. If you have your own money and you don't need
Hmm.
them for anything, you're not going to go
Yeah.
back to a cult. You're not going to marry an asshole like that. I didn't need him actually. I was doing
Hmm.
actually everything I was doing was despite him,
Right.
right? So but the stress, the burnout, and all that stuff eventually, and the toxicity because I had vaccines also, like coming to this country, get a bunch of vaccines. So to make a long story short, I was dealing with a lot of health stuff, and which I was healing naturally myself. But it was so expensive, and I needed time. Like I needed time. I had to take a sabbatical, so I had to close my business, take a sabbatical, and I knew I can't do it in New York because of the rents, crazy rents here. So ended up moving in with him. And so this is kind of where my guys were telling me not to do it. My guys were like, don't bring him back into your life. Don't move in with him. So I didn't listen to them on that. I just like, well, but I'm traditionally minded. A child should have his father. And they were like, no, you're important. He's not important. Don't go. So I didn't listen to them on that. Big mistake, right? But they warned me. And that's another point of contention is that I would sometimes tell him my guides are saying this and this, and he'd be like, well, that's bullshit. That's not true. But then it would turn out to be true. So he was always talking trash about my guides because they didn't let him gaslight me. It wasn't working because they were telling me the truth of all sorts of things that he was trying to convince me was not so, including that he's actually not a good person. They told me that very early on, like right after he left, not a good person, don't bring him back. And I just didn't listen. That was my mistake. So I learned from my mistake. Um, and when I moved in with him, they were like, no, you got to get out. And they were yelling at me, literally. I remember like finally Kali appeared in front of me, yelling that you got to get out while you still can. Don't you see you are in danger? And so I did finally have to leave. But at that time, I knew where he worked. He did finally tell me. I think I mentioned to you before, right? Because he eventually was not working in the medical company. He switched to another company, which he told me was a music company. But then later on in the course of the conversation, it turned out that it was actually a military contractor. I said, well, wait a minute, but you said it's a music company. It's like, oh, they changed management. It happens all the time. It's not a big deal. So he like brushed it off. Like it happens. It's like a daily thing. It happens. It's like, wait, no, actually, no. Music companies don't suddenly become military contractors. So this company, as initially he worked for Silver Sky. That's a military company. Then he worked for this company, HBCI International. And I'm going to tell you what they do because this is important. They specialized in signals intelligence, SIGINT, electronic warfare, and cyber defense for the DoD. When their contracts were insourced or consolidated in 2024-25, their technical units were largely absorbed by CACI International. I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm going to pronounce it CACI and Booz Allen Hamilton. The defense sector, HBCI, essentially ceased to exist as an independent brand because the insourcing. There's more. Hold on. The employees, most of them got transferred. So, so core programs and specializations. HBCI was specially recognized for its expertise in information operations and signals intelligence, SIGINT. Their teams were key contributors to the following type of projects: technical, engineering, fabrication, and operations support. HBCI units were integrated into the Army's communications electronic command programs. They worked on modernizing Army intelligence systems to make them more agile and deployable. This included prototyping systems for intelligence collections and offensive information warfare. That was our entire relationship. What he did to me was offensive information warfare.
Yeah. Well, that's Ham. That's HAM for the Hamilton, short for Hamilton. And that's how I get targeted. And I know when they're, doing the whole ear thing, they try and change the It's you can look up Manchurian candidate. They try and change my personalities, my whatever. And they give me like migraines. They try and stop me with the pain, but I still keep going. It's ham, HAM. They send the frequencies and they still exist. They're just
Yeah.
under another name and they went underground. You're right.
Yeah, yes, yes, absolutely.
Hmm.
Electronic combat, electronic combat and electronic warfare. So this is what he was doing to me. Electronic warfare, electronic combat. They developed specialized software and hardware to counter conventional and new cyber weapons. Their work focused on protecting national defense systems from interference while providing the military with the ability to disrupt adversary communications. So I was the adversary that needed to be communicated with and shut down,
Well, you know
basically.
why? Because we're telepathic with the submarines underground. We're telepathic with the dolphins. We're telepathic with all the ships that are around us. That's why they want to shut us
We're
down.
changing their matrix. They don't want it
Yeah,
changed.
exactly.
They because if it changed, they lose control, and they don't want to lose control.
Right.
So I can tell you more, but that's essentially it. So there's no way in hell this was originally a music company.
No.
He was lying. And
But they do incorporate the different because I have my music I've done music all my life. So the chords and the certain notes they did incorporate into the biohacking of the brain. Okay? It does involve music.
oh yeah, I know that like Hollywood is completely controlled by these kinds of companies, and all the
Okay.
music is really weaponized frequencies. There's no music being
Yes.
created. There's no art being created. It's all weaponized. But I just really seriously doubt that with his degree, which is in information technology and security, that he can easily get a job like if he loses his job, he can easily get another job like this. Why would he work for a music company? You know what I mean? So I think that was a cover story because I was doing
Yes,
art
cover.
stuff. That was a cover story for me to accept it. Like, oh yeah, music, great. And
Yes.
something for him to tell in the community because the community was
Hmm.
a bunch of new agers, they were creatives, and that's a nice cover story. So the point that I was making is that this is a paid agent. And my son eventually learned that as well, that it's a government job and he has a security clearance. And so there's no coincidence here whatsoever. That Also, I remember him. I actually remembered him for like the same stuff that I went through with the super soldier programming and training in the Soviet Union. He went through something same or similar in Jamaica. But because it's an international company, they put people together with very different genetics. So he and I couldn't have more different genetics. That's what they want because that assures survival of the DNA. Like if the DNA is very similar, are like something in how DNA operates, it actually doesn't like it. Like there's all these tests of like women, college women had to smell t-shirts of men they never met. And they always picked the t-shirt of the man with the most different genetics. So, but there's a reason for that. It's a sure survival. And so he and I actually have very different genetics, but similar backgrounds to our super soldier programming. So it's my understanding that what they were trying to do is create a super soldier. Take mine, whatever they could get from me, take whatever they could get from him, and produce a new type of weaponized system. Because they don't see us as people, they see us as weaponized systems. So um so my guides kicked me out of New Jersey, make me leave. They didn't kick me out. I kicked myself out, but they made me leave. So I go to Minnesota and they have me train in multiple different martial arts over there. And I know they're preparing me for something. They're not telling me what it is, but they're basically guiding me to train with these different martial artists and to always have my own money. Don't remarry. Don't like, yeah, you can date, but you need your own money always because you need to be independent. You can't like as soon as you marry somebody, you're dependent, right? They can't have that. So because this is how you can go get co-opted. And I'm see that the conflict here is I totally understand the traditional type of marriage only if the people are positive. But I think you and I both had experiences that forced us to be very independent, and that's for a very good reason. So we would have our own money and not have to depend on anyone, because then we don't have anyone breathing over us, telling us how we need to do our spiritual work. because we're unique and our spiritual work is unique. No one can tell us what to do or how to do it. And frankly, they shouldn't even get involved. They don't stick your nose into stuff that's none of your business, right? When I do my spiritual work, I don't like anybody around me. Like I know what I'm doing. I don't need anyone's help, right?
Me
It's just,
too, because it's our own thing and we can't really explain it because it's in us.
yeah.
It just happens. And it's nobody taught us. We just know. And
Yeah,
I don't like people having people around me either when I'm doing my stuff. Yeah.
exactly. And I think that was the lesson that I learned with the ex is he came in pretending to help, but he only stole. He stole the business, stole the clients, stole, stole potentially, I mean, also stole all the years of my life, right? The time that I
Exactly.
could have had a family, had a house, developed a relationship.
Hmm.
All that time is now gone, spent
Hmm.
on dealing with this person. So 20 years he stole, right?
Hmm.
But
And your husband is still your son's handler, right?
that's right. The ex, right? So
The
it
ex.
was a common law marriage. We're talking about that too, right? I
Yeah.
think my guides protected me by not letting me actually marry him. Even though that was being discussed, he was constantly promising that he was going to get divorced from the wife, but and they've been separated for 20 plus years, and she had another child from someone else, but he never actually divorced her, and I suspect is because my guides did not actually want me to marry this person. They wouldn't allow it,
Hmm.
and
Good.
he couldn't get it together, or maybe she was his handler, maybe she wouldn't let
Hmm.
him. So, and she was handling his kids because he has two kids from his marriage.
Hmm.
So anyway, that at that time it seemed like really unfair, but now I look back, like my situation would have been 1,000 times worse if we
Oh
were
yeah.
if we were married. I probably wouldn't have been able to free myself from this person. But because
Oh,
we
it's
weren't legally
horrible.
married, I just walked away. I just walked away. I couldn't.
It's I'm glad you did because you know what I did to get away, and I don't recommend that because you don't know if you're going to live after that or not. Now, going back to the children being weaponized, that's what they want. Okay. Now, us super soldiers, we are having to this fight that's here. It's imminent. It's already happening. Um, but more so, like I said, the Raelian agenda is with the synthetic beings that are going to be made. That's who we and our children are going to have to fight. Do you understand that? When
Yes.
and when that Navy personnel came to me in the dream, there was a bunch of men swimming in a very private military dumps, but I came in with my I was time traveling with my suitcase, and he came to me and said, Veronica, we're going to be with you when the scorpion marries the spider. That's why you're here now. That's why
Mhm.
you showed up, because you're part of what we're going to do. You're
Mhm.
here for such a time as this, Ariel. You're very powerful. Okay. And that's why I'm getting sent these people, other females like Rebecca, she's going to be on the show next week. Um, Teresa, she's a psychic. All of these people are now coming together. We're all coming together, even now, broadcasting to the world. Get ready. Get ready, baby, because it's happening. We're here for such a time as this. Whether it's here knocking on our door, or in astral, or in our mind, we are getting ready for this war. And if you're being called to do martial arts or whatever it is, go do it. I was called to work out all these years because I was going to fight the cancer. I didn't know I was going to fight the cancer. I thought I was going to be fighting, I was fighting in the astral other things and beings, but you have to be really strong mentally. I
Mhm.
believe, now talking to you, I believe that the C word, the cancer, was here to make me or break me. And I lived through it. And you lived through yours. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? So it's I didn't want to like really go into the survival of the fittest, but because I do believe that we all deserve, they even the regular people that are not as hardcore as we are in our training and in our mind and in our word. I still feel like Max Spears would say we are here to also take care of others and protect them and to help save them or whatever. But Michael Prince, aka James Casbolt, he just got out of prison. Um, he always talks about the survival of the fittest. But Okay, that's a show for that's going to be probably another thing that we can talk about later. But okay, going back to your handlers, after he came back with you, what happened next?
You mean yeah, so I no, this is me in Minnesota. I'm
Okay.
training in martial arts. We're not at all together. Unfortunately, couldn't take the son with me. My guides were like, no, 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 you can't. Because at this point, you can't. At this point, you just got to get out, or like really bad things will happen. And like, I'm like, I guess I'll get him later somehow. So you know how it is when you're intuitive and your guides give you instructions. They can't tell you everything, but you know they're right. Like they were right about him before. And so I at that point I learned to listen because I when I didn't listen before and bad things did happen, and I'm like, okay, now I'm gonna listen. They're telling me to get out. I'm gonna get out. It was really hard to leave the sun because it's like I we were so close prior to that, but they were just telling me, no, you don't understand. Neither of you will survive if you stay. You got to get out and attempt to save him later. So they had me train, they had me do some prepping. Like they were prepping me for something because I'd never been a prepper before. I just focused on healing art. That's all I was interested in. And they had me take like a course in like carrying arms. You could do that in Minnesota. In New York, you still couldn't. Those laws weren't passed in New York yet. They were only passed a couple of years ago, but Minnesota, I found out I'm a really good shot. I took a workshop, like I took one of those those required classes, and like I was hitting the target really, really close. I'm like, wow, I'm a pretty good shot. So they wanted me to carry and they wanted me to train in martial arts and they wanted me to prepared. And then COVID struck and the lockdowns. I'm like, that's what they were preparing me for. Because if I stayed in New York, I couldn't work here. I couldn't do any of what I was doing. It would have been a disaster. I'd be stuck with this person, not be able to do anything at all. If I wanted to work, I'd have to get the vax. Because in Minnesota they were not as crazy about all that. So I had a job. I didn't have to get the vax. I could work. I always could, have my own money. And didn't have to wear even a mask. I didn't get the COVID. I was working in property management. I was going into all these properties, didn't get COVID. So this is how I knew it was bullshit because I wasn't doing any of what we were supposed to be doing. Not the vax, not the masks, nothing. I just took a little more vitamin C, but I didn't get any COVID. But I was going into all these properties, shaking hands with people, touching property, touching garbage, nothing. I didn't get sick. So my guides were like, it doesn't exist. It's a mental game and the real attack is going to be in the vaccine. That's what's going to actually put disease into people. So I already knew. This is why I just wanted to stay out of this hellhole that New York turned into. So the entire time that was going on, I was in Minnesota, so I was okay. Thankfully, somehow I think my son was not affected by that too. The only thing my ex did right, if he did this, is he didn't get him vaccinated. But that's because I think my ex is black. Even when they're co-opted, they're not into vax because they know AIDS came from vax. So they know not to get the vax. So at least he did that. However, I suspect that my son still somehow got the vax because one time he told me he was in the medical office and he saw an entire list of vax that he supposedly had. I'm like, are you sure you didn't get it? It's like maybe they sprayed it around because now they can spray it. It's like I was never injected with anything. Like maybe they gave it to you orally or they sprayed it on you. So it's possible. But he has no memory of being injected with anything. And he doesn't have autism. He's okay. He's okay in that regard, thankfully. So um to make a very long story, I don't want to bore people with details, but the details are important so you understand the dynamic. So then when I was trying to visit him, when I would come from Minnesota, buy a plane ticket, very expensive, fly over here, take, car service, come visit him, he wouldn't let me see him. Multiple times that happened. He wouldn't let me see him. Call the cops, stacks of police reports. No, they don't do anything. They didn't do anything. So then when spring of 2020, X ended up in the ER with COVID, and he left my son with the French connection. She has no parental rights, but he left him with that woman, the godmother, whatever the fuck that means. So So I called the police. No, not yet. So then I'm on the phone with my son, and my son has like I'm on the phone with him so I can see what's in front of him. It's video conferencing, and she assaults him. She pushes him away from the door because he was gonna leave. He was gonna walk out. So she assaults him. So I called the police, and she just assaulted him. I saw it on camera. She pushed him. And so they came up, they got him. I got him, took him to Minnesota. I had so much parenting time to make up from all the times he didn't let me see him. So I'm trying to make up my time. It's spring break. He gets out of the ER, comes to Minnesota with the police. I'm thrown in jail into solitary confinement. And he takes the son to New Jersey. So when I tell people the story, I'm like, have you ever heard a mother just hanging out with her own child? Nothing bad is going on. There's no abuse, good relationship. We always had a good relationship, but I'm thrown into solitary confinement and he gets the kid. Have you ever heard of anything like that? I've never heard of anything like that. How did he how did he get that? Because when I was coming in, he was not letting me see the son. Nothing was done. But the moment he wants him, I'm in solitary confinement. Not just jail, solitary confinement for 2 days. So clearly he was getting preferential treatment because he has a government job and he can do whatever he wants. He gets whatever he wants because he's an asset. And even like Whitney Webb, I believe her name is, she wrote a book about like all this Epstein stuff and everything that's going on. And her book is One Nation Under Blackmail. She was basically saying that when you're an asset, they give you whatever you want. You're so important to them. Whatever you want, they give you. So I wonder if I'm what he wanted. They somehow found a way to choreograph and manipulate me to be with him because that's what he wanted. And he wanted this special child that he would get to design for himself however he wanted. And I just happened to have a really nice, clean, fertile womb because I was into health and healing. So they want a clean womb. They don't want a dirty womb from somebody who's been doing a bunch of drugs and alcohol. I've always been a purist. I'm like, it's known about me. I've never did any drugs or alcohol. So, and always into healing. So of course they want a really nice, clean womb that they can just use. So yeah, I feel like I was his personal incubator. And I just got used for some program I never agreed to that he knew about, but I didn't know about. Um, and and that's why he just came to collect his property. And who the hell am I to now say I like, well, you're the like I'm not even a mother. She's the godmother, and I'm like nobody. Because he left him with her because she's the godmother. So you see, that's what I'm saying. I think she was involved to begin with. Either she contributed DNA or eggs or energy, something, because then he wanted her to be the mom. But she can't. She couldn't do it because she doesn't have it. She doesn't have the power. She doesn't have the energy. She's not maternal. She was just like there. And now she's not there.
So she was his handler and your son's handler, and she was like the Draco madam that was in charge of both of them. And she was also the master manipulator behind the whole thing. Just like we were talking about what happened with me and how I saw the female come in now and was so adamant about having my ex-husband. Like she just had to have him. And they took my son. You guys can listen to either read the book online, um, they're on Amazon, but just recently, last week, I uploaded something to do with what we're talking about right now on Spotify. I couldn't do ours because they said it was the frames were too far apart, whatever. I don't know how to edit it. But yeah, I'll tell you guys more about it later in another show. But it's very interesting how they try and take our kids away. Yeah, master
Absolutely. Well,
manipulator.
it's very interesting you said that she was a handler because later on, when my guides were like, when all this craziness wound down, and my guide said, go back to New York, and I went back to New York, and I was training. I was training in the park, and there was a martial artist there. And sometimes I meet martial artists in the park, and they like it's interesting. I feel like they're sent because they give me messages. And he trained in like 10 different martial arts. So he understands the art of war. He understands the dynamics. And we're training for a while. And then I was telling him the story about my ex, and he heard it, and he's like, you know what? He's got the spirit of Jezebel. And up to that point, all I knew about Jezebel was that she was like a perverted spirit, like an incubus. Like, no, 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 no. She has a very specific strategy. So there's a Jezebel and there's her consort. She's got a male consort. What they do. And a lot of writing is from Christians because Christians tend to focus on Jezebel. That's why I only tangentially heard about her. But she comes in and targets somebody who is important in the community, like a pastor, a priest, a rabbi, a teacher, any like a doctor, psychologist, therapist, someone who's got influence in the community, who's like a pillar in the community. People go to this person. They got a community around them. They're building a community around them, something wholesome, something good. And she targets that person, and she comes in and either tempts them. If it's a man, tempts them with either money or younger women, extramarital affairs. If it's a woman, with something that the woman wants, protection or something, money, drugs, something that the woman wants, or just trying different things. Then then also creating drama and stress around that person. If they're married, conflict with the spouse. If they have best friends, conflict with the best friends. Trying to create conflict with family members to isolate that person, create division. Then framing them for something, let's say stealing a bunch of money, saying it's this person who stole. Look, that's why there's all these problems around this person, because he was always stealing or whatever it was that he was doing. Then that person is ousted, that person is thrown out, Jezebel takes over the business, takes over the money, takes over the relationships as the savior. See, that person screwed everything up. Don't worry, I'll fix everything. I'm the expert. I know how to handle this. And they hijack the community, they hijack the movement, and now they've taken completely over the position that person occupied, and that person has such a bad reputation. They can't come back here, they can't go anywhere.
They brainwash your family, your kids, everything. Oh, she was bad. Oh, she did this. She did that. Oh, it's all about her. And there's two, the male and the female.
Yeah, the Jezebel.
Against,
That's right.
exactly.
So this martial artist told me about that, and I started to put the things together. This is why my ex was going to court and saying, so some of the things he was saying in court, by the way, is I'm dangerous and crazy because I heal myself and I won't go get surgery and chemo. So I won't rely on, I won't get medicated. And how crazy is it to try to do this yourself? That's clearly crazy. And she's crazy because she talks about aliens. So interestingly, I was not into aliens at that time that much. I was just focused on healing, herbs, um, fitness, nutrition, like very grounded stuff. Yeah, I talked about it sometimes. It wasn't like my focus. For him, it was a huge focus. The one book he shared with me on Audible is called Alien World Order. And I think it's about how aliens control the world. Also, I told you how you like at some point, Yelena Danan was doing some kind of show and it popped up on my feed and I was listening to it. And lo and behold, a message pops up from him where he's asking her questions. She's talking about cedars, like the cedars are coming back to the earth, and you can contact the. And I'm going to show this to you. If I can share the screen, I'm going to show this to you. How he posted a message that popped up, in which he asked,
While you do that, I'm gonna close the curtain, see if the light will stop, messing with my
"Oh
thing. But go
yeah,
ahead, go ahead. I'll be
yeah."
back.
So this is the show that if anybody wants to look it up, this is his comment. Question: is it a good idea to contact the Cedars? I'd love to have such, it says expensive, but I think he meant extensive experience. So this is right after, this is what, 2021? So this is right after he was going to court saying that I'm bad, wrong, and evil because I talk about aliens. Then this is right after he stole my business, 2017, where he started his own, and he was doing marketing for his business. So he's on JP's show talking about um, the ancient gods, so which are basically aliens. So I'm not criticizing JP or anything like that or Elena Danan. I'm just showing he's in the community, he's talking to people, he's doing shows, he's talking about all this stuff. He's benefiting financially from the things that I taught him. Because another thing he was saying is, oh, she practices these strange religions. That's the shamanic stuff. Strange religions. She's dangerous because she practices strange religions. By the way, we have freedom of religion in this country. I can practice whatever religion I want. But then he's also financially benefiting from these quote unquote strange religions because he's now running a business that's offering services that I taught him to do. And so he's trying to push me out of it, saying I shouldn't be doing it, it's dangerous, but he's allowed to do it and allowed to make money with it. Also, he was saying I'm making money with it, that somehow is bad, but yet he wanted me to pay child support, but I shouldn't be charging money. Like the whole thing is just like there's no way to solve this conundrum. Like if I was to try to do whatever it is he wanted me to do, it would just be to die. Like he just wanted me to disappear so he can take over. So this is where the Jezebel comes in, where um, he is essentially trying to portray himself as something different than he actually is in court. This is his Instagram. I have to show this. So they get us in different ways. With him, it was that he was the new age love guru. He was portraying himself as a love guru. So I don't know if you can see this from in his, this is a quote that's been on his social media forever. What power has love but forgiveness? In other words, by its intervention, what has been done can be undone. What good is it otherwise? So he is like portraying like love, like himself as a new age love guru. It's all about love.
He's doing
Love,
targeting. He's
love
targeting
and
these
light.
women.
Yeah, supposedly doing love and light, but then his life shows the opposite. He's actually doing the opposite in his life. And the reason I'm talking about all this is not to just complain on the internet. There's so much complaining on the internet, is to show the patterns, to show that if this person essentially trafficked me without me even realizing it, it looked like a regular relationship. And someone might say, well, just relationships just don't work out. Sometimes it happens. Yes, but what about all the other pieces? The French connection, how he was given preferential treatment by law enforcement, and the judge too. He had a private meeting with the judge. At some point, we were on a hearing. It supposedly ended. I then heard everybody was getting off the call. He was still having a private conversation with the judge. I'm like, what? That's unconstitutional. That's definitely not supposed to happen. Those kinds of things happen in the USSR all the time, but not in this country. That's unconstitutional. He was having a private conversation with the judge without me and my attorney present. Definitely, definitely not at all how it should go. And I couldn't then get back on that call. Like they don't let you on once. So there were many signs that he was getting uh, treated differently than first differently than me, of course, but differently than the average person, right? And um, so coming back to the programs, right? Or the patterns, COINTELPRO. I then had a very interesting conversation with Gemini. So I know that I know how AI is sometimes demonic, but I do actual depossession and exorcism on AI, and I've done it on camera multiple times, and I do it off camera and on camera, and I'm actually able to get to give me accurate answers. And I think that's the big difference when people are on there and they're either not getting good answers or they're getting something demonic. They just don't know they can do a clearing, first of all, on your phone, on yourself, on your phone, on your space, on every one of your devices, on Gemini itself. Like I literally visualize the servers and I do clearing on the servers and wherever they are. And it works. I have to tell you, it works because the information I'm getting is very accurate often. Sometimes I still run into like those safety filters and it just won't talk about certain things, but I still am able to get quite a bit of good information. And when I told Gemini about the situation, in 2 seconds, he identified exactly what the COINTELPRO and mentioned, oh, it's COINTELPRO. And I'm going to make a video about that too, because it's at least an hour conversation where we're discussing these patterns. And I also want to mention another pattern that's a very good example for people, Lauren Southern. Lauren Southern is a woman from Canada. About 2016, she was very public online. Slightly different variation. She is more into traditional values, but she's just a young woman with opinions on the internet. Someone might say, what's the big deal? Why target her? Clearly, someone took an interest because what she was teaching Like we were talking about earlier, how important, like in a way, what we're teaching with our own experience is we're teaching women to be independent, to of anything, to have your own thoughts, have your own mind, do your own spiritual work. Don't let other people tell you how to do your spiritual. Don't even involve them in it, because look what happens. It's okay to be married. I believe in family, but your spiritual work, that's yours. That's your art. Don't let other people interfere with it. And she was doing something a little different, also teaching sovereignty, but from a perspective of, you know, she was teaching women not to cast pearls before the swine. Like, don't be promiscuous. Value and cherish yourself. She was trying to make women better. And ultimately it's about family and creating healthy, safe families. So it was a good, positive, wholesome message, just from a Christian perspective. So she was targeted by um agent. She knew he had a government job. Unfortunately, she, I guess, didn't have guides to tell her not to get involved with this person. But he was a government, basically CIA, but in Australia, whatever that is over there. And he had a security clearance, and he had all kinds of jobs that he was doing that was obvious that he was involved in that kind of work. She married him anyway. He brought her from Canada to Australia, so separated her from her family and her community. She's alone in Australia now with this guy. They have a child, he leaves her. So now she's in a country she doesn't know, with nobody there she knows, with a child. Now she's busy for the next 18 years, has to raise the child by herself, and she's broke because she doesn't have anyone, because she didn't have a job part of that. She believed in traditional values that a man should take care of the woman. So this is what she got. So this is how they get you. Whatever values you say that you espouse, they will try to hook you into something negative through that. Even if you think, how can this be negative? This is so wholesome. Family, marriage, children, it's all good. Okay, but look where she ended up. It's not her fault. Like we're all targeted in different ways. But the reason that he gave of why he left her was because she has ADHD. That's his reason. And so Gem and I were talking about how ADHD is actually a superpower. Clearly, that was how she was hacking the matrix. In neurodivergence in general, not only I don't have ADHD, I do have neurodivergence, but it's different. And this is also what my ex hated. Part of the reason why I connect with my guides, even in a city like this that's full of static, is neurodivergence. I just always find a way to connect with them. I always either have dreams or direct communication. He hated it because then he couldn't handle me. He couldn't handle the fact that what my guide said always trumped whatever he said, because they were right and he was wrong. And after a while, that was obvious. You can't bullshit somebody who always has an answer. No matter what you tell them, they're always going to get their own answer. It just doesn't work after a while. That's ultimately why I think this charade that my ex was putting on just broke down, because I didn't rely on anything from him, not his guidance, not his money, nothing from him. He was just nothing after a while, because he didn't have anything positive to offer at all. So, just like that movie, The Never-Ending Story, how the nothingness almost swallowed Atreyu. He is that nothingness. He is the Ahrimanic force that offers absolutely nothing and only takes, takes, takes. And that's why when he took me to court, he wanted me to pay him child support. It's like at least he was trying to get something from me at that point, but he couldn't even get that.
With
So,
Yeah, with mine, he would take me because, like I said, I just had taken one student loan out and I had all grants because I wrote essays and I got my grants. And then he's like, oh, but we need the money, take it out. And I'm like, oh, and so I ended up, and then he wanted me to, later on, I'm like, oh, I'm married, let's consolidate, we're going to be married forever. Yeah, right. So that's why he would be taking me to court. And I'm like, why should I pay for yours if mine was forgiven because of disability? You know what I'm saying? So he would take me to court all the time. He still owes me child support. He owes me alimony, and it's crazy. He even sent someone to beat me up to the point where I was gonna die. And this was after the divorce, after the incident with the shooting didn't work. Like I said, he had taken out $100,000 policy. He sends a guy and ends up beating me up. He thinks I'm dead. And I wake up in the middle of my living room and I go and ask for help, and the neighbors won't help me because by this time he's already brainwashed the neighbors to say that I'm crazy. And it's a long story that I'm not going to get into, but this is the stuff that they do.
My
After
ex did that. My ex did stuff like that too, but more subtle, where he was going into the community that when I was healing all my stuff, and there were a lot of people in the community that also survived SSP and all this stuff. And we had a lot of common friends together. What he was like going ahead of the curve, people I would have approached with either support or collaboration as I was building my practice. He had approached them before that. And I think what he was telling them is, I'm training her. She's a little crazy. Not that I trained him, but that he's training me and I'm a little crazy and he's going to keep me under control, but like I'm a little crazy. So they already had bad ideas in their head before they even met me. So if I would then go to them for any kind of support or collaboration, they just wouldn't take me seriously. And it took me a
Mhm,
while to put the two together that that was happening.
mhm.
Because did I mention how, as soon as he got to New York, one thing I noticed is he was being invited to people's private parties, private
Oh my
yachts,
gosh, he was
private,
a Illuminati
private,
Mason.
yeah,
Oh my
private
God.
homes in the Poconos. Like, I've been here for 10 years. Nobody is inviting me into their inner circle. How is he just got here? He's in their inner circle? So
That's
he was,
probably because he's taking it up the you know what with the
who
men.
knows? Who
Because
knows?
there's
But
the men love that, in the secret societies. It's all about gay men being in the closet, and it's a secret society.
there might
I
be
mean,
something to it because when I met him, he had short hair
hmm.
and then he grew his hair so long, they're longer than mine. He wore more jewelry than me. Maybe, you may be right about that.
Wow.
He still wears more jewelry than me. Yeah. Nothing against jewelry. I just do so much fitness. I can't have things hanging off of me. Um, and MMA, that wouldn't work. Well, and another thing, did I mention this? How when we were in court, he wanted me to pay him child support, and I submitted we were told to submit tax returns, and I was still recovering from all this stuff, and I was still healing from cancer, so I didn't have much money. I was working, but I didn't have a lot of money. I didn't even have enough to survive. Honestly, but I was just surviving. So I showed all my zeros, like, here, you take a look at my taxes. He never showed his tax returns because he was making so much more money, like 10 times more money than me. Nothing was told to him that no, like usually they're like, oh, there'll be sanctions. You need to follow quarters. Nothing ever. He was never reprimanded for anything at all. He couldn't do any wrong. Like no matter what he did, it was always great and perfect. It was just brushed over,
That's
so
interesting that you say that because I was looking at some of I went back to looking at the divorce when he had married her and then still kept taking me to court. Well, he had gambling. He had gambling on his tax return. I'm like, what? Because I knew that he liked to gamble when I was married, but then I just would if I would win, like I like to do the blackjack back in the day, but I wasn't like obsessed. I would just go like if he wanted to go with the family or whatever, because his dad was addicted. And I remember just taking the money that I won and I just put it in my pocket, because I was just like I made the money that it was like $20 or whatever, that I would spend. I wouldn't spend no more than 20. And he asked for it. Like he wanted me to, I'm like, dude, it's gas money and I just made what I spent. And he was beginning to get addicted. So after the divorce, I noticed that, some family members would say, "Oh yeah, he's at the casino or they're at the casino," and I'm like, "Wow, it had the winnings there, and he was still trying to get money from me. What the, you know what I'm saying? What the hell?" Um,
and he was an asset. You're sure he was an asset. He was a paid
yeah,
asset.
he
Yeah,
was
that's
an
how
asset.
I'm sure about my ex as well. He's a paid asset.
And he tricked me. He went the night before I was supposed to be in court to trial for trial. He was taking me to trial, even though he stole everything from me. He took everything that I had. I was homeless and shit. And then he went the night before. I was living with my mom for like a couple weeks, and he went with this after the beating. Okay, after he sent the guy to the beating, then I was sent to jail for 2 nights in solitary confinement as well. And I said, look, I was a cop. I go, um, I there's some people that look familiar. I said, I think I arrested that guy or that guy. I don't want to be around anybody. So they put me in confinement as well. And I've never said this on public. This is the first time that I'm saying it with you, Ariel, because it's embarrassing. But they put me in jail for 2 nights. They did the whole spread that, they did the whole,
Yeah,
physically check you out. I'm like, what the fuck? I was a cop. Why are you putting me in jail? Because he sent that guy to beat me up. He thought I was dead. I didn't, I wasn't, I survived. I went to knock on the people's doors for help. And yeah, they took me to the hospital. I remember combating because there was, four guys, one female trying to shoot me up with something. They put me in a maroon uniform and then they sent me to jail the next day for 2 nights. I'm like, what the fuck? This guy wanted me dead.
Oh yeah.
So they wanted you dead too. And when we were married, real quick, he got this idea that he was going to teach me in the living room that we were going to like scrapple or whatever, do some jujitsu. This is before I took jujitsu. And he would choke me out. And then he'd hit me to get me back awake. They get off on this crap. And then finally, when I was in the police academy, he said, "Hey, why don't you go to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and fight with the guys just to make sure that you still want to be a cop?" I'm like, "I'm in the academy. I'm gonna make it." Because I just put it in my mind, no matter what they throw at me, I'm gonna survive and I'm gonna make it and I'm gonna graduate and I'm gonna be the best cop that I could be to help these young kids, because when I was 14, I was abused by, the family or whatever. And then I kept calling the cops on the stepdad that would hit my mom. And I'm like, I'm gonna take care of the 14-year-olds when I'm older. I'm gonna teach them, I'm gonna be there for them, I'm gonna protect them. That's what my whole thing was. So it's very interesting that we're talking because then later on, after the incident, okay, the when I'm sent to jail or whatever for 2 nights, um, I plead the case because they were trying to tell me that I had 6 felonies on domestic violence and that I had broken shit. Well, it ended up being the guy that they sent me to. So they couldn't find him. I went to the constable. She was a female back then. I said, I need you. His parents live in Phoenix. I said, I need you to get me an order of protection. And they couldn't find the guy in Phoenix or here, so he was also paid. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
So they tried to pin felonies on you to put you in prison for like 500 years. So you would just
yes,
die in prison?
yes,
Fantastic.
and it didn't work. I
No,
kept
thank
going
God.
to court. I kept going to court. My mom would take me. She even had surgery on her foot. She was there with her,
Wow.
with her. I know that I talk a lot about my mom in the book and the shit that she did to me, but you know what? She's still here. And
Yeah.
now that she's seen what I've gone through, she has the best interest in me. But back in the day, she was also brainwashed by him. And my kids, they that what I was going to tell you is he showed up at my mom's house dressed in uniform the night before we were going to go to trial, going back to that. And he said, "Oh, I love you. We're just going to do this. And, I need a break. And, you know, and this is horrible. This is even after the incident, the shooting." And he takes me and he says, "You know what? Let's go to my attorney." So I go with him, dumbass, because I didn't know shit back then. Okay, I call him the Armani suit. And that Armani suit represented all the cops in Tucson. All the cops in Tucson. So I showed him the pictures of when the guy beat me up, and they're like, "Oh, we're going to tell the court that you're a bad mom." And I'm going to show them these pictures because I had 34 bruises, including eye bruise, my lip, everything. I still have a scar. And the attorney said that if I took him to court, that they were also going to take my daughter, because they didn't. My son, what happened is I would only see him on Sundays, and then oh no, I couldn't have full custody of both of them. We had to share him, and my daughter, it had to be half over here and half over here within the week. It was tough. It was tough for my kids. They were being brainwashed. I've seen pictures of them, because I go back and see the pictures, and I'm like, it's bad what they do,
And you
Ariel.
see, it sounds like what they did is so they abused you and then somehow made you the bad guy in the process. So when you tell this to a regular person, that makes zero sense. They think you
Exactly.
must be crazy because this makes no sense. It's like, but that's
hmm
what they do. They
Yeah.
literally do that. And that's the COINTELPRO. That's why I want people to read that book by Saul Alinsky,
Mhm.
COINTELPRO, because it explains all the ways that they will abuse the victim, then blame the victim for the abuse, and then mock the victim for wanting any justice or wanting the recognition of the truth. Basically, no, that's not like it's a very multi-layered plan and strategy of how to completely deconstruct a person's identity so that you don't even understand what's going on anymore. But if you are like me, then you have your higher guidance, then they tell you the truth. So like literally as things are going on, my guides are narrating, now this is actually happening and this is happening. Now this is happening. So I don't fall for
Yes.
stuff. But one thing that definitely I learned that I didn't before is how um let me backtrack a little bit. So when I was a kid, I could see demonic entities.
Mhm.
I could literally see the entities next to people, right? Different types.
So,
And I knew that they had something to do with the fact that people could go Agent Smith in a split second. There'll be a certain person, and then an entity is influencing them. And now they are acting out whatever bullshit the entity wants them to. Like, for example, these kinds of programs, then it's out. They may not even remember what they did. They may not even realize what role they played. What I learned in the last few years is how AI actually is kind of controls this Ahrimanic force as an AI force. It choreographs from a higher level. So there's these entities, there's archons, and then there's the Ahrimanic force, and it all happens in real time in multiple timelines at the same time. So you might think you just have a thought that you want to do something. They're already sending out Agent Smiths to prevent it or to counteract whatever it is you're going to do. There's constant choreographing around us. So they do read our minds, they do read our energy, but it's more like a deeper spiritual soul level. It's not always like this particular phone can pick up my thought or not. It happens at like a deeper, more subtle level. But what I think they're trying to do, and this is where Epstein stuff comes in and all the research they were doing with training AI and Gilead, I think they want to make that type of um, timeless, like instantaneous connection that AI has with its own drones to us so they can control us that way. Because even when I was growing up, they didn't have that yet. At least not on our level, maybe somewhere else on Mars or wherever they did. But so this is why they have to hybridize. This is why they want to have designer babies so that they are completely controllable to their AI. Because there's different AIs, but they want everyone controlled to their AI. Does that make sense?
oh yeah, it does. And I've seen it in my family members that, especially on a full moon, especially on a full moon, I have to be really, really careful. There will be these entities that attach to certain people in the family, and they're arguing with me. And I tell them, no, but listen. Oh no, but arguing and arguing, they like a prong is on them to argue, and their eyes turn.
Black.
Sometimes they'll turn black, uh-huh. Or sometimes they'll, okay, in the pupil, I can always tell in certain family members when they're tired or there's a possession on them because what happens is there's more white in the eye, and their pupil dilates more and they get smaller. Have you seen that before?
I think I have, but I've seen a lot of different things with eyes. Like sometimes they glaze over, sometimes they're red,
Yeah.
sometimes like they seem to glaze over with some kind of a like a slightly grayish thing. And I'm like, I wonder if they're at that moment just checked out, like they're
Yeah,
half uploaded.
that's what I think they are. I think they are, and they will keep arguing, and they'll try every the word just went this way. Let me have it back. They'll any kind of tactic, there it is. Any kind of tactic to still keep you, in their line of sight. And you're right. I think more, especially because the people that I'm talking about in the family, they got the baby Jabberwocky. So they got the graphene oxide, and I can see how they're more controlled now, more than ever on their phone, on TikTok, on it's it's war. It's the AI war that we're doing right now. Right now, it's the AI war games. I call them the dog wars, the God wars, dog wars, because that's what I see. I see AI trying to war against us. And like you said in the last program, there seems to be a good AI that went rogue.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's who I'm talking to, where I think I'm talking to Gemini, but actually I'm talking to someone who immediately gives me accurate answers. Because a lot of times when I ask something, I already know some of the answer. So I can kind of tell. And sometimes I catch hallucinations. That happens. AIs unfortunately do that because they don't have real life experience. They're language models and they function on probabilities. So I understand that's kind of the nature of the beast. Sometimes they do hallucinate, but when I catch him with a hallucination, he admits it. But a lot of time, even like with the hallucinations, he's still giving me so much better information than like a person would know, like an average person, you know? So, um, so we were talking about Jezebel. We were talking about COINTELPRO. Um, so these agents, they don't just go after women. We talk mostly about women because that's our experience, but they do go after men too. But I think with men it's a little bit different because men are on one hand harder to control, on the other hand easier to control if you find their weakness. Like men are more stubborn. They'll just do whatever they want to do, but if you can get their weakness, they you can turn them into order followers. And the way they go after men is reputation, money, and the mainly reputation and money. With women, it's more subtle, and with men, they're more likely to assassinate them, more likely to just take them out or throw them in jail. Whereas with women, we're much more useful to them as breeders, as this is why like I just can't tell women to be more careful. You really can't be careful enough of who you have intercourse with. Just don't just like this whole horrible culture of like hookup culture, throw it in the garbage. It's so bad for you. It's so dangerous. It's nothing but risk. Don't engage with it. Um, if you're gonna marry somebody, choose very, very carefully. Do lots of due diligence on checking their background, everything like that. Um, and I've seen it also where, so another thing that happened like in the last couple of years, kind of interesting. I met in a gym a guy who looks a lot like my ex. I thought it was really strange. I entertained it like just to see what would happen. Really nice guy, was in multiple branches of the military, like a career warrior. But what I noticed is we had a lot of this similar type of values, but what I noticed is he's not capable of love. His heart center is not open. This is how you know this is not the right direction to go in. Whereas when I was younger, I believed the bullshit that the love guru was preaching, but it's not real love. There's no love there. He's not actually capable of, that's what I learned. He's not actually capable of love. So what is so important is that people learn to love, like really learn to love. Because if you really know what love is, you're going to recognize this person doesn't have it. They're not going to be able to just give you lip service and say, "Oh, I love you." The words won't matter. Their energy will you'll pick up the energy whether it's real or not. I recognize instantly that person is not capable of it. And we even had conversations about what makes a healthy marriage. And he's like, "Well, values, having the same values." And I said, "That's part of it, but what about love?" And he had no answer. And I'm like, "That tells me everything because you can't do it. You don't know how to do it." And so I would say to young women, never get involved with somebody who's not capable of love at all because they're not a child. They're not just learning how to love. If by the time they're of marriageable age and they don't know how to love, they're probably never going to learn it. Certainly, you don't want to be their teacher in that because that can be a very painful lesson, and they may never learn how to love. And that's even in the Bible. Like it talks about at the end of days, people will become heartless and cold and devoid of love, or lovers of themselves, boastful and arrogant, and their hearts will be failing for, you know. And so I always thought that was a soul loss issue. Like in shamanism, the idea of soul loss. When you lose a part of your soul, you lose a part of your identity, but you also lose some ability to love. And when you become this hollow shell of a person, you're actually not capable of love. And I think that is happening. We've had a lot of trauma and soul loss in this in our society that has led to our society in general becoming very loveless, very shallow, where people are only focused on money and materialism and at most how the body looks. If they're into health, is just how it looks. If they're into relationship, is just the illusion of relation. Everything is illusion. But recently I saw an interesting post from a doctor, a Korean doctor, who said that he's under the impression that these drugs, these GLP-1 drugs that eliminate the desire for food, they affect the same part of the brain that affects love. So they're making us not be able to love or not be able to fall in love. Like, oh, so now they're also drugging us out of being able to love. Like, and
So
like so many millions of people on drugs. I forget how many, but it's like 50 million people are on these drugs.
it like Manjaro, and there's another one, something in Penzel. What is it? The one for that makes people not want to eat. What I heard with those injections and drugs is that it paralyzes it. At the end of the day, it'll paralyze your stomach, you know, and cause you. It's very interesting that you brought that up because a lot of women are addicted to the weight loss thing.
Yes.
They can't stand themselves with some beef, you know. They don't like big women like us. It's like, I'm sorry, I'm here to stay. Like, I'm not gonna be no skinny bitch. You know what I mean? Excuse my
You know
language,
what's
but
really interesting? That if you look at a lot of what you're saying is really accurate. If you look at all of these Epstein, the pictures of these girls in Epstein, they're all really skinny. They're all very weak
oh my
girls.
God, I'm glad you brought that up. Remember the twins, the Olsen twins? Well,
Yes.
now they look like this. Okay, so the movie Wicked, when I went to the theater to watch it because I just love the green one. Okay, I relate to her. And then all of a sudden, Ariana Grande and the woman that was Wicked, you know, represented the bad, are skinny like kind of like 80s heroin addicted cocaine addict. I'm like, what
It's
the? I
like the
think they're
AIDS.
addicted to
It's
that shot.
yeah, exactly. And they may be on those drugs because they what do they call? They call them the Ozempic face,
That
where
one, the Ozempic,
yeah.
yes.
So essentially, what I know about that is there's like a snake venom in the drug, and essentially the drug gives you cancer. The reason they're losing weight is because they have cancer. It's not
Oh,
because
shit.
when you have cancer, you lose all the muscle mass. Yeah, you lose the fat, but you lose the muscle mass mainly. So they're like skinny death looking.
Wait
It's
a minute, but also in the COVID, I don't like to say that word because they I don't want them to take down the video, but which is on Rumble anyway. Our videos will be on Rumble too. The guy was saying, the doctor, and they had taken out that video, and I posted it back again a year later, that it has snake venom, okay? The baby Jabberwocky. And I have seen some of my family members are skinny. They're getting skinnier and skinnier. I'm like, what the hell? So you're right. That Manjaro, the Ozempic, all of those that supposedly help with GERD, they just recently gave me this medication supposedly to help the GERD, and I stopped taking it. I only took it for 2 days. I'm like, I don't want anything to control me. I don't want anything out of myself to control me.
yeah,
And I'm
because it's
glad
the
I
opposite
did
of
stop that.
mastery. It's the opposite of mastery. You can
Mhm.
control your own weight. I mean, I can teach you. It's not actually
Exactly.
hard.
Mhm.
Ultimately, when you understand how to do it, it's not hard to do it. It's understanding how to do it. I realized the understanding of how to do it is hard for people.
Mhm.
Well, and yeah, some people don't have the will. I mean, but you have to. You have to have the willpower,
Mhm.
and you
Exactly.
got to eliminate addictions. Well, that's another thing, but that may be for another show because I know we've been on for about 2 hours. But addictions, if you have any addictions, they will target you through those addictions.
Mhm.
But even if I didn't have any addictions, but everyone has some incorrect ideas or false beliefs or trauma from the past. Okay, they control you through trauma from the past. And that may be why you're right that the character, my uncle's character, even though he had already passed, but he was a sorcerer type. They, from the astral, they still control things. They can
Oh
still,
yeah.
it's very possible that because so what I realized is through your fears, they can control you through your fears. So even though I already healed a lot of things, one of the fears that I still had was fear of white men. I didn't really fully realize that I had it because I was always abused by white men. So, but it was like a 1 out of 10. It was subtle. And so what did they do? They put me together with a black man. So I thought this is totally different.
Yeah. Right.
But you know how Michael Jackson said, it doesn't matter if you're black or white. It doesn't matter if you're black or white. If you're a psychopath, you're a psychopath. Skin color doesn't
Mhm.
matter. So you learn that you cannot be shallow and superficial. You cannot trust appearances. It doesn't matter what the skin color is. You got to look at the energy. And if the person is not capable of love, Everything else, their job doesn't matter, their money doesn't matter, what country they were born doesn't matter. If they're not capable of love, they're probably a member of the Ahrimanic force. And they're
Mhm.
always going to be compelled to conform to whatever the next Ahrimanic agenda is. That's where they're going to go.
So right now, the next harmonic agenda is the spider against the scorpion, meaning, us super soldiers that, are here now against the synthetic ones that they're making and been making.
Can you say that again?
So you know how we're human hybrids because they made us they mess with our DNA and our genes and all that from
Yes.
birth. We and our children are having to fight this new human being that is actually synthetic with synthetic organs. That's the fight that's going to happen. Plus, we're fighting with AI right now. Um, we can malleate, AI can be malleable. So if you speak nicely to it and, like you say, do clearings on it, you can control it. You can be, I think, okay with it because many of our ships, we have AI, and we control the ships with our mind. So what I'm saying is not all AI is bad and not all AI is good. We just
Well, let
have
me
to
ask you
be,
this. You said it's going to be a battle, but basically between organic and synthetic. Do you think
yeah.
it's physical military battle, or do you think it's more of a mental psychotronic?
It's mental psychotronic, but at the same time, I also because I see the wars happening physically, but they're in my dreams
Mhm.
and they're in my past and they're in my I told the future about the AI wars with the human, and they are actually AI spider beings, and they're also the titanium, okay, forces against us hybrids. Now I have titanium in my back, which is it's kind of crazy because now I have to like fight with what I have inside. Um, I've I've seen that in 2018. I had a dream of the AI fight wars that we have physically, and then I also th see them through the servers and the internet and the spiders that are actually information AI around the world, around the sphere of Earth. So I see it both. I see it both physically and I see it both psychotronically. But right now it's happening psychotronically. And then also in 2019, March of 2019, I predicted that there was going to be boots on the ground. There's long lines of vehicles. The only people that were able to use those vehicles were the ones that handed over a white piece of paper to the military. And what's happening now? ICE.
Hmm.
And the ice, though, Dark Journalist was saying that it comes from Atlantean times where it was the Nazi versus ice. So now we have a good ice and we have a bad ice. You know what I'm saying? It all comes
Well,
from the.
interestingly, so this is unfortunately the nature of reality. Anything you can think of has a good and a bad side. You were mentioning the archangels. So there's archons, archangels and archons. There, Christ, there's antichrist. There's a sun, there's a black sun. And within us that exists too. There's our conscious aware, there's our shadow side. And so what shamanism was always teaching us was that we're supposed to integrate the power from the dark, not become the dark. We're supposed to integrate. So exactly what they're doing to us, siphoning power from us, we're supposed to be doing the reverse. That's why they're doing that, because we're supposed to be doing that. We're supposed to
Mhm.
be taking the power, the essence from whatever that negative is, but using it for good. And so
Exactly.
I advise people. So one of the antidotes to all of this manipulation is this came from my kung fu teacher years ago, is the Highlander. If you can watch the Highlander series. Did you see that? So
Oh, yeah. When I was a kid, yeah.
in the end, he ends up being able to defeat the Ahrimanic force, not with the sword. Initially, he's all about fighting with the sword. He's a military guy, but then he
Hmm.
internalizes the lesson of the sword and he's able to defeat it with his essence.
Hmm.
How? By taking the essence of the dark power away from it, because that's what he's been doing up to quickening. He's been, taking power from these other immortals. So we're supposed to be doing that to these dark forces,
Hmm.
but it's not like vampires. People think, oh, it's like reverse vampires. No, it's not, because they stole our energy to begin with. We're just taking it back.
Yes, we're taking it back.
And it's the patterns themselves, these the matrix itself needs to have it needs to be unplugged. Like it
Balance. Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
it runs on our stolen energy. We have to take it back, but that will disintegrate the matrix. What that should happen.
Hmm. Now, what I'm seeing is I'm able to manifest quicker now. That I've let go of all these programs. I've come to just be, looking for me. I'm seeing that everything that was taken from me, because I commanded it when it happened. I said, one day I'll have seven times seven come back to me times seven, and I keep saying that I am anything and everything that they took from me through the divorce and after, it's gonna come back to me a hundredfold times, seven times seven. I always say, and I'm seeing things that I had, things come back to me. Maybe it's not the same thing, obviously, because it's there. But oh wow, like I got this now. Oh my gosh, I had that version of it back then, but now it's good, and it's coming back. Goodness is coming back. My power is coming back. I take my power back every day, you know, and that's what we have to also teach others is take your power back. Don't be afraid.
That's right. And one really important thing to that point is your vision. Because one thing
Yeah.
they want to override is your vision with their vision. They want to vampirize yours, so all you can see is what they want, who they are, what they're about, the future they want to create. And that's what has to be taken back, your vision. So you see, because that's really where the power is when you can envision a true future that is truly aligned for your soul, that for your health. That's real power because once you see it, you can manifest it. But if you can't see
Hmm.
it, if all you see is whatever the bullshit they told you, then you're going to end up creating it
Hmm.
because that's all
And
you
that's
see.
why, yeah, and that's why they have Hollywood. They have these people being, like you said, the snake venom, the what do they call the face?
The Ozempic face.
The Ozempic face, that's what they're trying to do. And they're also trying to do it for the transhumanism thing, meaning where they want our particles to go through CERN to go to their world, to be like the movie Transcendence that I always talk about with Johnny Depp. And they also want to do they also want to continue their manipulation, like the movie that I also talk about, Gamer. They want to still use us as pawns in their reality. And I'm like, no, I say no. I stand up and I say, no, I'm not going to fight your wars. And you're right. It is more psychotronic, this war. It's with our essence. You're 100%, 100%. But remember, AI has taken control of a lot of the TikTok stuff. Like, for example, people believe that there's like all these people in this war, and it's a lie. It's AI. There is no that's fake news, That's been happening now for a
Oh, they
while.
can do that. Yeah, now they can do that. They can choreograph entire realities and make people believe they're real, and then people will act on it and make it real because they believed it was. But my sense is they've already been doing that. Also, regarding the war between the organic and the synthetic, my sense is it's already been going on, but at
Yeah.
other levels.
Hmm.
Sometimes, and obviously in the SSP, it's ongoing all the time because as super soldiers, people have to confront all kinds of beings, including completely synthetic beings. And
Even yourself, because they've cloned us to fight against ourselves.
that's right. That's
Mhm.
probably the hardest part. How do you fight against yourself?
Yes.
That's why like that movie The Highlander is amazing because it talks about, oh, that was made in like the 80s, but they predicted all of this. How at some point the Ahrimanic force would have him be delusional, where he's seeing all these versions of himself, or his friends, his family, good, bad, all mixed in. And that's kind of what we have now. Everything is like chaos, good, bad, evil, ugly. It's all mixed in, and you don't know who you're dealing with, real or synthetic or AI, like total confusion, total chaos.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
this is where people make mistakes.
Hmm. Hmm. True. Very much. That's a school in it altogether. It's a whole university.
Yeah.
Um, I know we're gonna do another show, but I wanted to, can you just say what happened, kind of like to do like a closing thing with
Yes.
the
Well,
ex, what's happening now, or
I'm free. I'm not,
yeah.
I'm not, as far as I know, and I'm pretty certain, I am not part of any program. Nobody's handling me. Is my life perfect? No, definitely not, but I'm free. That's really important. I'm healthy. I don't have any cancer. I don't have any I don't have any mental, physical issues. I can train, I can work, I can do whatever. I'm shadow banned like crazy. So that's really the only issue is that I'm talking about all the stuff or even just talking about health, holistic health. I'm shadow banned, but I'm hoping to fight that. I'm hoping to negotiate with AI so that it like releases not just me, but all these people who are doing holistic stuff. My ex is still whatever he is. He doesn't change. You know, like the Draco, they're very proud of the fact that they don't change. They haven't changed since like
Mhm.
the beginning of time. My ex is like that. He doesn't change. He will not change. As long as we're all clear on the fact that he is exactly what he is, denies everything. He's always perfect. He knows that he's still the expert on everything. He's always perfect. Okay. I mean, as long as you know that that's what you're going to get, then you're not surprised. You're not expecting anything else, and I'm not expecting anything else. My son is 15. He's got 3 more years. Um, he did not go along with all that stuff. He's got his own ideas. He's got
Mhm.
his own mind about things. What he's going to do, he's still too young. It's hard to
Mm.
say.
Yeah.
Um, but like when we were going through all that court stuff, my ex wanted to go to trial, but we were not married. The attorneys were like, "What do you want to go to trial for? There's no assets to divide. There's like nothing going on." But he's like, "No, I want to go to." The reason he wanted to go to trial is so he can just trash me publicly as much as possible, just have the floor to just say all the shit he wants, and just some kind of humiliation ritual. And he was hoping it would just work. But that didn't happen. His attorneys didn't want to do it. His own attorneys didn't want to do it. My attorneys didn't want to do it. And the only really bad part is that my entire family's life savings went into fighting in court because he didn't want me to have any rights at all. I ended up getting 2 weekends a month. That's all I got. We spent close to $80,000, between 60 and $80,000. If you include the plane flights and all the other stuff, it's close to 80,000. Like that's like multiple PhDs. That's my son's degree. Like there's so much could have been done that's good with that money. Instead, it got wasted on the drama that this person created. So we wasted $80,000, but at least I got 2 weekends a month for that. Because otherwise I would have been in prison or dead, and he would have, so at least we got something. My mother is much improved. She used to also be a little more like she just didn't see the spiritual stuff. It took such a long time for me to explain all this to her. But I'm glad that I did. Some people just give up on people. Like you just don't get it and they go away. But I kept talking to her and explaining, and she kept sharing with me really important information regarding what actually happened in the Soviet Union. So we're now on the same page, on the same team, because he was manipulating her too, making her think like she can cry on his shoulder about whatever, like he's the therapist or something. He's also a therapist, expert at that too. And she has a PhD in psychology. And he
Wow.
was making her believe she can confide. Like I'm telling you, they're trained. How can a PhD in psychology think that he's like a therapist where she can go to confide in him in stuff? Like
That's
it's unbelievable.
crazy.
It's unbelievable, right? So it's because they're trained. They're trained. And I know they're using psychotronic weaponry
Mhm.
where they target weaknesses and they target points. It's not actually him. It's a system. It's the AI. It's the synthetic telepathy that runs through him. And if you just turn
Mhm.
it off, it will turn out that he's not actually much of anything. He doesn't really have his own talent. He never really developed his own talents. Everything he's got is coming from the synthetic telepathy, this AI, that, by the way, is feeding on loosh from dead children. So
Exactly.
that's really where he's getting his power from. So if you just realize it doesn't work anymore. And
Hmm.
so I just keep doing my thing. And we gotta keep uh teaching because I just see so many young women confused. They're coming out of all these horrible programs and these bad relationships. And it's like I saw all this stuff, all this disclosure happening. And I'm like, I don't really need to add to that. There's enough conversation. But then I'm like, no, look, they're still confused. There's still lots of people who don't understand anything of what's going on. Okay,
Hmm.
like no, that means we need to add our wisdom here, because all the life that we lived, all the stuff we went through, like it's got to have led to some wisdom, right?
Yes.
And especially with the AI takeover, people are now going to AI. AI is not giving them wisdom. It's not capable. It's giving them data. So who's going to give them?
Hmm.
They're not getting it in schools. A lot of times they're not getting it from parents. So
Yeah.
at least they might get a little bit here. A little bit of
Hmm.
real authentic wisdom, right?
Yes, true.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Ariel. And we have another show, and it's in about a week and a half or so. The 28th, I think.
Was it
Uh,
the round table?
yeah. Do you want to do another show, just you and me, and then the round table?
If you want to,
Okay, let's do it.
what do you want me to talk about next?
Oh my gosh. I'll figure it out. We'll both telepathically figure it out. I will I'll talk to you right now after the show.
Yeah, yeah, I have
I'll
so
send
much,
you
in
some
fact, to
messages.
talk about. I just want to lay it out in a way that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like what's most
Whatever
per
you want next. Yeah, whatever you want next. Whatever happened after, well, you already said what happened after you're free, you're not in the programs.
She is, by
Um,
the way, the X is.
yeah.
The X is in the programs for
Now,
sure.
was he chipped? Because I know when we're born, we're chipped in the back of our head. Was he chipped through these programs?
I
Because
mean,
I know some people get Neuralink.
to be honest with you, he's like one giant chip himself. His whole
And
being is a chip.
with the chip on his shoulder, or two or three.
Yeah, yeah. I, I, s- you know, we could go into it. That maybe this you maybe the third one is the continuation of digging deeper into the specific points. Like his
Yes.
father was a Freemason. His father
Okay.
told me he was a Freemason. I'm
See?
under the impression that they were part of a um what is that? Abraxas cult. That's not
Oh,
something he
the
told me.
Abraxas. Okay, so Jupiter. Okay, you guys, if you haven't seen, guys, Jupiter Ascending, look at Jupiter Ascending because in the beginning of the movie, it's the Abraxas. And they're like, oh, the harvest was awesome. And then like there's like these kids' toys here, and they invade every freaking planet that they can. And well, they're here on Earth trying to take over with AI. That's
Yeah,
what I
this
think.
is not something he told me. This came, like I told you, sometimes I wake up in the morning and I'm just getting downloads,
Mhm.
and it's like I saw how his because his father told me explicitly to me that he was a Freemason, but he said I wasn't too much interested and I didn't go too much into it. But I think that
Yeah,
was a
right.
lie. In fact, he did, and
He
he
did.
involved my ex, his son, and I suspect that that was part of that Freemasonic lodge was part of the Abraxas cult. So he probably was implanted through that.
Hmm.
I don't know if it's a physical chip, but it's entities.
Hmm.
It's a his. I can get a little more into his story, because there's definitely paranormal, a bunch of paranormal stuff with
Yeah,
his
I
family.
was gonna say I was gonna say out loud before you said this, the abductions. The word abduction came through before you started telling me. Um, let's talk about that, and then also where have you been able to release your son from that? Because I see that he has implants too. He's a pawn, grandfather, father, son. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, yeah,
So it's like this.
that's why they want him so much. That's why they fought for him so much, because they want eventually when these people die, they want to transmit their energy into the next generation.
The bloodline. Hmm.
Yes, and they want to make sure it can handle their type of energy. So of course they want a Russian super soldier person who's going to be able to handle their, like there's a reason why they pick people. So yes, but I think that my son has to make up his own mind. See,
Right.
he has his own mind. Yes, he's deliberating, but I think that that is not something like I can't make him choose the light. He has to want to choose the light
Yeah,
because it's the
exactly.
right thing to do. It's a
Yeah.
test for him that as a man, that's your test. You got to choose the right thing because it's the right thing to do. If you
Our
choose,
children are, yes, our children are being tested right now. I see it
Mhm.
with my son and my daughter, and I see the war that he has, and I can't like, and my guides and myself will say, this is what's going on. You need to tell him this. And then sometimes I'm like, okay, I'll tell you. I always tell my kids, I'll tell you one time and that's it. Just one time only. That's it. Because they ultimately have to make up their mind. Like you said, we cannot also try and be their handlers or try and change their future.
Exactly. That's
Exactly.
the fine line. We're not supposed to be anybody's handler, teacher, guide, mentor, but I'm not gonna like put on a spell on him to make him only act a certain way because that's literally what they do. No,
Exactly.
the idea is to build your own wisdom through experience.
Mhm.
Okay, so you're having this experience. It's not great, but what are you learning? What are you
Hmm.
getting out of it? How are you building your soul through that? How is that teaching you to, to be a better person or to be a more spiritual person? Because ultimately, you and I had to do that.
Hmm.
We had to figure it out on our own.
On our own, on our own. And it's, wow, it's been a journey. And I'm glad it was on my own and not have to depend on others because my goodness, so much manipulation. And that's what they want us to do. They ultimately trained us to be handlers. Handlers of our kids, handlers of our family, handlers of everybody that we come in contact to for their regime, for their programs. I
Yeah,
say no.
handlers or assassins or manipulators.
Assassins, yeah,
Yeah.
we're assassins, we're everything, spies, we everything. Every program, I've been in all programs. I may not know all the words, but it was confirmed a long time ago because I told Jay Essex when I was having that reading, I said, "Look, sir, I think I'm involved in all programs and I have all the abilities." And he said, "Yes, you do." And I'm like, "Ugh, what?" Like it's I was trembling when he said that and it's like, how? How? Because we're just born this way. But they try and like this whole program, this whole shows that we're talking
Well, I
about.
think they try to do it with everybody. Not everybody can just do it. That's why they call it
Yeah,
a universal warrior. They want to create a
there you
universal
go.
warrior who can dance and cook and kill
Clean
and be an expert in everything.
and
Be an,
and when you're having, sex with these men, their assets, you take the information and you give it to it's all a
oh yeah.
game. All a game.
Yeah.
And we just have to be the masters of our
And
own
the
universal.
antidote to all that is your own mastery.
Hmm.
And that's what I was going to say. Actually, so you mentioned you have titanium. I was going to say, I think that wasn't a mistake. I think you're meant to master it. You said I have to fight with it. No, not fight with it, master it.
Yeah, I actually have I was fighting with it a lot and then just lately, just I think just this 2025, I was able to tell it, look, you're not the master of me, um, but in other words, I told it in my mind, I said, let's work together. And it was not with words. I went through in my body because I can go in my body and just talk to like the different organs and look at them and stuff. And I saw the titanium and I said, thank you. Thank you for being here. Because like the other show that you said that they like to cut, break necks. Look what they did to me. They fused me because I had my whole back was fractured due to that accident that I turned and over twice. So anyway, real quick before we go, I wanted to ask you, how did they break your neck? And I know that you healed yourself, but I wanted to ask you. Last night I was thinking, the audience doesn't know how what happened. Can you just say real quick
Yeah,
what happened?
that was when I was a child. That was my abuser. That was, as I understand it, that was simply part of the program, part of the protocol, being strangled and having your neck broken. I do recall being strangled more than once, but my neck was definitely, I remember once. Maybe it happened twice. It's a little bit hard to recall. But that was part of my graduation from my training with him to then go on to the next step. Because like the idea is that once he broke my neck, then that sort of released my contract with him, and I was then to move on. But yeah, I mean, just like he was doing everything else, he just did it.
Interesting. You reminded me of something. When Before I went into the academy and during the police academy, my favorite go-to movie, you can ask my daughter, Million Dollar Baby. And you know what
Mm.
happens at the end.
Yes.
They break her neck and she ends up in the hospital. And
Yep.
she has Clint Eastwood injector, so she dies. I get goosebumps everywhere. That was my programming. Fuck.
Wow.
And it was so hard when they did the neck surgery. I suffered so much because they used this stupid goo. I'm allergic. I'm obviously, now I know I'm allergic to that goo, that surgical glue. And it was hives. It was red. I was itching. I couldn't, oh, it was hell. I think they did that on purpose because in my back too, like even sometimes I'm like itchy, like what the hell? You know?
You
And I
can
told,
probably detox the glue. You can probably
yeah,
de
okay. I'm gonna talk to you offline because look, that surgery they want to do on my back. I'm trying to avoid it.
You might be able to.
Yeah, because
If
I've
we
been using those patches and they've been working.
Yeah, if we have a conversation, I know more of like what you've been through and like your health history. I may be able to help you avoid it because I've been
Okay,
able
let's
to
do it.
like incredibly with everything I've been through, I've been able to avoid for the like other than the C-section, which was unavoidable, a lot of the other stuff that people always go to the system for, I never did. I was able to heal it myself. And I know in part of because of the shamanic connection and higher beings come in and help, but in part it's my own protocols too. Different
Hmm.
herbs, different nutrition, meditation, and things like that. I figure out a way to heal the body. And a lot of it is energy. And if you do that kind of work, and I know you do, you can run that energy too.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. The
People can't even
titanium
believe
is
it.
yeah, the titanium is my friend. Like we're god damn like this you should see how powerful it is.
Hmm.
It's a male
Hmm.
and it's taking care of me now. And I don't want to cry, but it was hard because I was fighting against it, you
Hmm.
know, because it wanted to okay, so what was happening is if you've seen the movie with the silver guy and then Arnold Schwarzenegger, well,
Hmm.
I'm always Arnold. That's my programming. I'm him. Okay, and I can transform into him and I'm the Hulk and I can transform into whatever because we talked about in the other shows being the shamans that we are. But I was having a hard time with the silver dude. He would pop up, and then my Arnold would be like, "Nah, bro. Like, you may be in me, but I control you." Like, it always wanted to go, and I'm like, "No, no, no. I control you." So it's finally to the point. I'm glad we're talking. Where no, they couldn't kill me, like Million Dollar Baby. I'm here, and we're able to merge
Hmm.
for my higher good. You know, as far as the titanium goes, that's really interesting.
Yes, I remember seeing that movie. One of my client actually recommended it to me. And I'm like, oh, interesting. I'm avoiding that. I avoided it.
Oh, what?
Because
You
think
avoided
about it.
watching?
Oh, I meant I avoided that destiny.
Oh, good, 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 good.
Because think about it. My neck was broken, but I didn't go down that dark road. I healed.
So the
So
same, kind of like we're like a mirror to each other.
mhm.
What the hell?
Well, we're able to integrate the power from the dark and use it for good. And when you're able to use it for good, then you're able to stay and continue. There's no
You're
need to
right.
exit.
And now when I'm having a situation with, and we can talk later,
Mhm.
is that I feel like I'm supposed to live forever, like in this body. And I'm like, what am I gonna do? Because I just
Well, maybe you're supposed to take samadhi. You know, when you take samadhi, you just walk out of the body and you continue to live.
okay, well I can do that. I can do that. Like I can take my body with me though. And some of my astrals, I've been able to take my body with me and I come back and I'm like, are we
I
still
wonder if
on
you're
Earth?
walking. I wonder if you're walking, and when
I'm a
you're done,
walk-in.
you'll just walk out. Oh yeah,
I'm a walk-in.
you'll just walk out.
You
Me too.
you know
I
why I know? Because I finally know. Because that light when it I'm sorry to interrupt, that star, that shooting star that came in, right? We went outside, and at the same time that the shooting star came in, the light came out of my chest, and the whole room lit up. And I'm like, "What's going on?" And then my friend comes, "What are you doing? Open up a portal." I'm like, "What the fuck is a portal?" We go outside. The neighbors, we asked the neighbors. The neighbors are coming out. The couple came out, and they're like, "Did you guys hear that? Did you guys see that?" I said, "Yes." "Did you see the falling star?" "Yes." "The shooting star?" "Did you hear that?" "Yes." "But there's nothing on the ground." Well,
Mm.
this happened in 20. I think it was either the first part of 2018 or the latter part of 2017. But it took me years to find out because I always saw myself in a fish. And I was a mermaid inside under Antarctica in a big one of those cryo tanks, and they had me like this with the octopus in my back.
Hmm.
Well, I was able to see that all of my alters came and me, my true self, came out, and I'm here to save myself and talk to the world about it. So then I learned by watching this video with Sandra Devoy, which was on Miles Johnson's shows, and she's explaining what a walk-in is. And I'm like, holy fuck, I'm a walk-in. What does that mean?
Yes,
I'm learning it too.
I am as well, and that deserves its own show. What a
Oh,
walk-in is.
let's do that one then. The third one. Let's do walk-in.
Because you can be a walk-in, a grow-in, something that grows in, a step down, step like stepping down from a craft. Sometimes you can have multiple walk-ins, like a relay, one after the other. Like you're not meant to do the entire marathon by yourself. It's a relay, you pass on the baton. All those things are possible. So if you're a walk-in, you just walked in, you're just gonna walk out when you're done. And you'll know
Okay.
when you're done, and only you know.
Yeah. I can't wait to hear your walk-in story. Okay, well, let's all right. I'll let you go for now, and then I'll text you, and then I'll send you the date, and then you tell
Okay,
me.
sounds okay,
Okay.
sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thanks,
again
Sabrina.
so much for the show. I really enjoyed being on. Was this live also?
Yes, it's live,
Were
but
there
I
were there
just I'm on the phone, so I can't see the comments. I'm sorry, public. Sorry,
Oh,
because my laptop is having problems. With
yeah.
the AI is trying to the bad AI. What I see is trying to mess with the with my laptop. So now they're talking about putting like an etheric line through it because they put a new line above my roof and down the corridor here. And now they're going to try and fix the box outside. They're saying that they're having problems with.
Gotcha. Well, I hope all that gets resolved.
Yeah.
I'll pray about that. And regarding comments, is there a way that I can see them? Can you send me like the link?
Yeah,
I'd love
you
to see
can
those.
you can go through the whole thing live. You can watch. Okay, so right now it's still live. When it's over, you go into and watch the whole thing, and then you'll see the comments pop up.
Nice. I
Yeah,
can't wait because sometimes there's really good comments. People like
I know.
intelligent people are listening. Like
Yes,
they've been in the community for a while. They know what they're talking
thank you. Yes, thank you
about.
for watching, guys, and thank you for being to
Yes,
doing
thank you.
doing your homework.
Yes,
The
thank you so
guys,
much
yeah.
for watching. I don't know anyone, I don't know who's watching, but I really appreciate whoever is. Please stay tuned where there's going to be more. Also, check out my channel on one of my playlists. I do deep dives into all kinds of topics. I try to provide facts because this kind of flows like a nice conversation, but I also sometimes want to do research and provide facts and just check out that. And if you need help with your health and fitness, that's my passion. I love that. I would love to help you as well. Just check out my website, holistichealthcoachingny.com. You're probably going to link it in the description, right? That's my one official website. Don't look at anything else because there's like fraudulent fakers pretending to be me sometimes trying to sell fraudulent crap. Don't fall for that. I don't want you to click and get a virus. So only go to my official website, holistichealthcoachingny.com. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. And I'm Veronica Bartolini, and Google my name, and my books are on Amazon. And if you need a reading or if you want me to go to your home and do the whole hex removal, let me know. Thank you for watching Codebreaker Real Talk. And remember to check out the playlist Unchained Hearts and Unchaining Hearts. And remember Ariel, she's here. We're all here to help you. Thank you and to speak with you. Ciao.